Okay, so why don't we kick it off? And apologies, everyone, I'm having to join remote. I'm traveling on business, and my best mapped out plans to be back in New York appear to have been disrupted by the tornado warnings that are in effect. So I'm scrambling to find a hotel room for the evening. But anyway, I'm sorry.
That's quite an excuse, Andrew.
Yeah, Mother Nature and I have not been getting along very well on my business trips. Anyway, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the July Waterfront Parks and Committee meeting. My name's Andrew Zelter. I am chair, joined by Paul Goldstein, co-chair, and we have our office staff, Onez James, and I can't tell if others in the room. So why don't we kick it off? And apologies, give me a second to pull up the agenda. Right, I'm on multiple screens here, so just give me one sec. Okay, so our first agenda item is an overview of New York City Parks' intention to issue requests for proposals for the renovation, operation, and maintenance of the John Street Service Building snack bar at the East River Waterfront, Esplanade. Wow, that's a mouthful. So I believe we have two folks, perhaps from Parks, Alexander Hahn and Melissa Goldberg. So why don't I turn it over to you, and please walk us through your presentation.
Thanks so much. Our Deputy Director for Concessions Compliance, Jeremy Holmes, will be leading this presentation. But happy to answer any questions. Thank you, and nice to see you all.
Thanks, Alex, and hi. Nice meeting everybody virtually. Let me just pull up a brief presentation that we have, and then happy to answer any questions afterward. See, is everyone able to see this?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Okay, great. Thank you. So again, we're here to talk about the John Street Service Building snack bar at the East River Waterfront Esplanade. Parks intends to issue a request.
Jeremy, we can see your the videos.
Oh, are you able to see the Oh, I'm sorry.
Presentation.
Got you. Apologies. We use Teams a lot with the city, so let me just figure out how to share the presentation through this. Okay. Any chance this works, or is it still just the meeting screen?
We can see it.
You can see it now?
Yes. Yes, we can.
Okay, apologies for that. So again, Parks intends to issue a request for proposals for the renovation, operation, and maintenance of a snack bar at the John Street Service Building. The RFP will provide for 1 9-year term. Parks may also request additional improvements in the RFP, including but not limited to upgrades to the kitchen, storefront, countertops, and seating areas. Parks will view favorably on proposals that incorporate diverse and/or healthy food choices. And Parks envisions that the concession will allow community members and park visitors to be able to use and enjoy East River Waterfront Esplanade and its facilities even more. I'd like to share just a little bit of the site map if folks are familiar with how it looks. It's the area in red, the small snack bar food service with some outdoor seating, and then the adjacent public restrooms. If you are familiar with the area now, the Cool Sips snack bar is currently operating there. Again, this is just for some context for where the site is. And yeah, again, we will open it up to questions. As I said, that was a pretty brief presentation. So happy to answer any questions folks might have.
So Nej, can I ask you to manage the room?
Yes. No problem. We have Eric.
Yes, hi. So the current leaseholder, how long have they been there? And what are the hours of operation that will be in this new proposal? Like in terms of for the public restrooms, what are the hours that they have to maintain?
So they have to, it's a twofold question. I'll start with the second one. So they have to maintain the restrooms at all hours that they are operating. Again, since we'll be waiting to see proposed hours under the new RFP, that's an answer that we'll have a little bit further down the line. But again, currently the hours of the bathrooms would match the hours of operation for the snack bar. Currently, the setup in place right now is slightly different. The current license holder is the Seaport Entertainment Group, and they manage this through a sub-license agreement with Cool Sip. So the Seaport Entertainment Group currently manage the maintenance of the restrooms while the snack bar operates as sort of a standalone service. But we are very cognizant of the restrooms there. We know they are heavily used by both patrons of the snack bar and members of the public. So we will definitely be sure to stress the maintenance and hours of the restroom when we receive proposals for the snack bar.
And then also the restrooms, how many of them are ADA compliant? I'm assuming they are, right?
Yeah, honestly, I apologize. I don't know that exact answer offhand, but I can follow up in an email with it. I'll confirm the exact number. I don't want to give incorrect information here.
Just for our understanding, and this is Alex from New York City Parks. The existing restrooms at the John Street building are already ADA compliant. The concessionaire maintains the restrooms, cleans them, opens and closes them, and restocks them.
Okay, thank you.
You may have answered the question, but I'm not sure I'm getting it. SEG no longer will maintain the bathrooms and it is going to Parks. Who's going to maintain them in the future after this RFP is out?
Sure. So it will be whoever the winning proposer, the selected proposer is, they will be responsible for maintaining the bathrooms.
Okay. There was a prior agreement with SEG, which is no longer going to be enacted. Okay. And then what are the hours exactly? I don't know. Did you specify the exact hours?
Under the current operation or the future operation?
Yeah, future.
The future operation, that's something we'll wait to see when we receive proposals. So we haven't released the RFP yet. Again, that's something that we'll find out when folks actually propose on it. We ask that they submit complete, operational plans, including hours of operation, in the proposals that they submit to the Parks Department.
What are they currently?
Again, I apologize. I don't know the exact hours offhand, but I will find out and follow up.
Thanks. Sorry if it was already answered.
Francis?
I just want to make sure I'm focusing on the right area. This is like right across from Imaginary Playground, right underneath the FDR extension.
Yes, that's correct. It's on John Street underneath the FDR. It's adjacent to, I think it's between piers 15 and 16 for some context.
Right at the most.
Andrew? Go ahead.
Yep, thanks, Anej. So a couple of quick questions. Is it customary that your RFPs allow for someone to win the concession, but then essentially outsource it to someone else?
Yes, we do have some occasions where folks are able to sub-license out their operations. Obviously, that's going on under the current sort of setup over there, but it's standard practice to allow sub-license agreements to take place. That being said, they all have to be reviewed by the New York City Parks Department before they go into place. So a winning proposer can't, get the concession and then sublicense out without us doing our due diligence in terms of who they are selecting to sublicense the operation to.
Thank you, and apologies if this is an obvious question, but the party that, for all intents and purposes, subleases the space, they are held to the same requirements as to the concession holder?
Yes, that's correct.
Got it.
Tammy?
Okay.
We'll go to Tammy and then Francis again.
I wasn't sure if Andrew was done.
I wasn't, but go ahead, Tammy. I can come back.
No,
Oh,
you go, and then I'll go. It's fine.
You mentioned you haven't released the RFP. Do you have a time frame for when you will release it? And what's the timing for announcing the winner?
Sure. So the process typically can take up to about a year from start to finish. The current plans are to release the RFP towards the end of August or early September. We'll then give a time frame of approximately 40 or so days for folks to submit proposals. We will then review those internally with the appropriate park staff. After that time, when we do select a winning proposer, we enter into license agreement negotiations with them. And then after that time, when the license is agreed upon, we will then, again, move ahead with that proposer at the time. The current operator, SEG, have also agreed to operate the snack bar, again, through the sublicense with Cool Sips throughout this time so that there will not be a break-in service at the snack bar.
Thank you. And I think one final question. Have there been occasions where a community board has been able to review an RFP before it's released just to see if there are any items of particular interest or that we might want to comment on?
Unfortunately, no. This falls under the FCRC or the Franchise Committee Rules, Franchise and Concession Rules Committee. So these are not public-facing documents to be reviewed before they are released. But again, that's what this meeting sort of is for. If you have any questions or specific concerns about the operation of the snack bar, we can certainly take those into account in terms of when we're, drafting the document.
And is it guaranteed that this will remain a snack bar? Or can someone
Yeah.
submit a different proposed use?
Someone can submit a different proposed use, but again, I feel like the core concept of this site is a food service facility, and that's what we're issuing the RFP for, is a food service facility. So again, if someone wanted to turn this into a storehouse or something along those lines, I don't think that Parks would consider that proposal appropriate for the site.
Got it. Thank you. Thanks, Tammy.
My pleasure. It actually dovetails really well into questions I was going to ask, because this is our public engagement opportunity. We'd like to be able to discuss, obviously, and send you a follow-up with lists of questions and ideas if you're forming an RFP. One of the ones that I did want to ask are, what kind of restrictions or encouragements do you have, incentives around what types of food establishments? Obviously, there's lots of conversations in the neighborhood about things that are missing from the neighborhood. It's not an ice cream place, but it's a somewhat slushy place that's there now. So what is the goal by Parks to have there?
To answer the first part, we don't place restrictions on the type of food service. Again, we review the proposals, and if there's a time that we have any sort of comments to some of the proposal we receive, we have a process where we meet with some of the higher rated folks. But we do look for diversity. We look for affordability is a big thing in terms of pricing of what's going in there. But we don't try to hamstring a certain type of food into a food service facility prior to receiving any proposals. We kind of want to put it out there to the public, to private entities to see, what they envision for the space, and then we'll review that and see what's appropriate.
Well, I appreciate that. From a community perspective, we're looking for something definitely on the affordability side, but also on a seasonality side. So we would hope that, it's not just that there is a seasonality to it that serves the public need. So in the summertime, it could be cool and refreshing, and warming in the winter. You know, you've got people coming ideally 12 months a year, and not a lot of people are looking for ice cream cones in December, but they are looking for hot cocos and, you know, things like that. So finding something that's seasonally appropriate would be great. Um, didn't know if there was any kind of a benefit or incentive scale you had for things that were fresh versus highly processed, and any of the, you know, sort of asks that the Parks Department is doing in that space.
Nope, definitely. And we do take, again, I think I noted before, like diverse options and healthy options. Again, we're the Parks Department. We're always looking for healthy outdoorsy type stuff. And we want to see, again, it kind of better the area versus, you know, again, something that's highly processed and not really doing much for the community as a whole.
So then lastly, it's the connection of the bathrooms to the facility. Currently, those bathrooms in the area that are behind those, you know, around the bathrooms around there are impartially managed in terms of cleanliness and things like that by Watermark oftentimes, as well as maybe some of the and the bathrooms over by 15. So these would be just the bathrooms that are by the concession and completely holistically separate from anything that's over on the pier, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And what about storage or anything like that around this area? Will you build storage? Will you encourage seating? Can we get rid of the parked cars that are blocking the kiosk and create more of a public seating and friendly space around it?
We are definitely looking for public seating to be a part of the new operation. In terms of the vehicles that are parked there, I apologize, I'm not specifically familiar with it, but it's something we can certainly look into. Storage, again, we do note that there may not be adequate storage on the site, but that's something we want proposers to come to us with, is ideas on how they can make the space work, or if there's any sort of opportunities for additional storage. But again, something we'd want to see in the proposals, and not something we would force upon anyone yet.
And
Great.
Jeremy, if I could just add, there is a space to the side of the snack bar kiosk where the concessionaire is able to use storage mainly for garbage, so that it's out of the public way and until it's ready to be picked up by their carter. But that room could be used for multiple purposes. That is the only other storage space that we typically have included as part of this concession.
I do remember that. Thank you so much for the questions and for the time. If we have more feedback that comes, who do we send it to? Do we send it to Therese, to Alex, to Jeremy? Who do we send
If you
it
could
to?
if you could send all your comments to Jeremy, and Jeremy, I know you sent the notice maybe a week or two ago. Could you just remind me and everyone else here in terms of getting a formal response? And you could do it via email. It doesn't have to be postal mail or anything like that.
Yeah, so I did speak with Zach last week about this. So Zach has all of my contact info as well as the notice has it. The deadline was today or tomorrow for comment on it. But again, I think that's something that we have some flexibility on. But tomorrow was the deadline for comments.
Sorry, can we just clarify, comment on exactly what?
Comments for going into the RFP feedback, right?
Yes,
But we
correct.
haven't seen, have we seen the RFP? So what are we commenting on?
What you're commenting on is what you would like the RFP to include. So as we draft and complete the RFP, which is not completed yet, we want to understand what the community board's interests were, and this, obviously, community members can also weigh in terms of what you would like to see as part of this new concession. What you would like us to ask for in the RFP process. Keeping in mind that, as Jeremy mentioned, we keep everything as broad as possible, as long as we have a concessionaire that's providing food service in the area. Ideally, they have a seating area, and also as a requirement is that they're responsible for maintaining those restrooms that are a part of that building.
So thank you for that. I think that's important clarification. We as a committee have not had a chance to discuss our thoughts and ideas, and I think we'd like to do so. I don't want to do so now. We have two other presentations. But
That's
maybe
totally
it's
fair.
something as a committee we can take a few minutes afterwards and see if we can come up with a list of ideas we'd like to submit. And we might need to ask you for some additional time on this, but we'll come back to you after tonight.
That's totally fair and understandable. I don't want anyone to feel pressured like this is the absolute deadline. I just wanted Jeremy to remind us of what the the date on the notice was. If you need more time to discuss, if you'd like us to have another meeting either in a smaller group just to make things more efficient, that's totally fine too. We just want to move the process along because it is really important to us to make sure that this area is maintained and there's a high quality amenity here for the public.
Sure. I feel pretty confident saying there will likely be some ideas we'd like to put forward. I just need
Yes.
to discuss this with the committee, our time frame for being able to pull that together.
And I think,
Yeah,
Alex,
that makes
we
sense.
would normally have done it by resolution to add in all the feedback of the committee, which is why, and our full board's on the 28th. So that's why I think the question on the length of engagement, we obviously don't want to hold up an RFP. We're excited to have, vendors. I just want to make sure this vendor is not leaving this season, correct?
They're not leaving until we have someone else that's immediately ready to take over those bathrooms.
Okay. And they're still operating and still a service as part of SEG.
Yes.
Okay. Great.
Sorry,
Thanks.
I just had one last question come up. So you mentioned garbage. Is there a stipulation as to how often they need to facilitate removal of garbage?
It's daily.
It is daily.
Yes. At least for parks concessions.
So to clarify, whoever wins this concession is going to have to arrange for daily garbage removal.
That's correct.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Andrew, we have Francis and then Paul.
Just quick, are there gonna be
Okay.
any structural
Sorry.
changes in terms of like if it's a pizza place and they have to put in a big oven or? Is it as is? Or are they allowed to make structural changes in the?
Jeremy can
They're
answer
allowed
this.
to make. Yeah, they're allowed to make changes to the interior of the snack bar. So again, if they wanted to add a pizza oven into the kitchen or something like that, but in terms of the exterior of the building, we don't envision any changes to the exterior. I think everything would remain as is, except for signage, of course, which has to go through an approval process.
Okay, thank you. Paul?
I just had a question regarding the term of the RFP, 9 years. Is that unusual to have such a long contract, or how did you come up with that number of years?
So
So
I
we
think,
take.
Jeremy, if you don't mind, so the maximum term for a concession allowed by the city's rules is a 20-year term. And so typically the shortest term that we have are for our food carts and food trucks, which are 5-year terms. And then when you have a larger food service facility, that's somewhere between 7 and 15 years. And then, the full 20-year term would be something like golf courses, or a very, large concession that requires a lot of maintenance and upkeep and things like that. So a 9-year term is pretty consistent when it comes to our food service facilities based on what we think improvements need to be made and how long of a commitment we think that the concessionaire may need. Because keeping in mind, this is an RFP to the business community. They're the folks that we're trying to attract to operate this facility. And so we think a term of 9 years makes a return on their investment worthwhile, especially given that they still have to go through this competitive RFP process, which can take up to a year.
And is STG, how long have they been running it so far?
Jeremy, could you find this info?
Yep. Sorry, I'm looking at right now. 1 minute. They have been operating it since May of 2022.
Okay, thank you.
Naj, do we have any other questions?
Yes, we have Alice and then Eric.
Just a quick question, how much, who's paying for the renovation? And what is the budget and what is the square footage of this concession?
So the proposer would be paying for the renovation cost. That's included in their what we call a capital commitment. So part of what we'd like to see in a proposal is not only the scope of work that they're planning to do, but a full schedule along with estimated costs for the work. So again, all of the costs would fall on the winning proposer for the concession.
And how big is the footprint, more or less?
Let me pull up the square footage. The footprint itself is 22. I'm sorry. I'll find out the exact square footage for you. I don't want to miscalculate it offhand, but I believe it's about 300 or 400 square feet off the top of my head. Just for the kitchen space, that is.
Yeah, I get it. Thank you.
Just also keep in mind that the current concessionaire has replaced the fixtures in the public bathrooms multiple times. I think for some reason the toilets keep getting stolen, and they've been replaced about 4 times in the last 2 years, and in each of the men's and the women's restrooms. So there's a significant upkeep cost that's I know we keep talking about repairs, but a lot of it is replacement of these fixtures.
Sorry, did you say the toilets have been stolen?
Yes.
Is that a common problem with public bathrooms in New York City?
Yes.
I mean, I defer to our colleagues. I know Therese here from Manhattan Operations is on the call, and I hate to put her on the spot, but vandalism is this is a public place, and unfortunately, part of the deal when you're a concessionaire is that not only are you required to renovate the space at your own cost and maintain that area and keep it clean, the public bathrooms and those fixtures in those bathrooms are also part of their responsibilities to repair and replace. That includes clogs, that includes missing toilets.
Yeah, vandalism I get. Theft, I guess I'm surprised, but not sure why.
Yeah.
I don't have the exact statistics, but it happens often enough that we get them either damaged, or removed or stolen. And it's nice that we have someone who's coming on to take that coordination for
Sure.
fixing, finding parts, and it's not me. So it's you have a concessionaire that's taking care of something that's a public amenity, probably even faster than we can sometimes. So, it's hard to maintain these bathrooms for the public, but that's what we do.
Sure. So, sorry, the question on square footage triggered another question, and it dovetails with Tammy's comment about public seating. How much of the outdoor space potentially can the concessionaire claim for outdoor seating for their service?
I will get you the exact measurements on that. Again, we'd like to see what folks propose because, again, they may have ideas that we wouldn't think of. But as Alex noted, we try to keep it as vague, but also making sure it's appropriate for the site.
Got it. Thank you.
Just also keep in mind that any outdoor seating is also available for the public, so it's not just for
Right.
the customers.
Yep.
Okay, we'll go to Eric.
So when this RFP is awarded, let's say it's awarded to this firm that wants to open up a yogurt shop, and then let's say 2 years down the road, it's not viable, and this operator wants to change the type of food establishment. Does that come before the Parks Department again? Are they allowed to change, whatever the type of food they sell? Yes.
Not without our approval. Again, all menus, concepts, pricing, all requires Parks prior approval before they can put it into effect. So that would include changing from a yogurt shop to a pizza shop. They would have to come to us for approval before executing that.
And then if this operator does not maintain the bathroom, let's say, does not open it on a Sunday in December, are there penalties for not adhering to the contract, providing the service to the public, restroom facilities?
Yes, there are. There are stipulations in the license agreements that are called liquidated damages. It's another word for a fine if they're found continuously, violating the terms of their license on things like that, of not cleaning the bathrooms, not opening them on time, not adhering to the operating hours that are approved, so on and so forth. Yes.
Thank you.
All right, we have Rosa, then Elise, and then Alice again? Okay.
No.
Okay. Now, Rosa,
Hi.
you can go ahead.
Oh, thank you. I put my arm back down, my hand back down, because Therese answered the question of like, do people actually steal toilets? And apparently the answer is yes. I am dumbfounded as someone who is literally working on trying to put in public toilets at so yeah, that's disturbing. But thank you very much for that clarification. And Therese, I'm probably going to call you offline to discuss further.
All right, Elise?
SEG went in, as you said, in 2002. What was the length of their term? 'Cause now you're looking for a 9-year RFP?
Yeah.
I thought he
so
said 22.
22. Yes, it was 2022.
So what was the
and
length?
let me just confirm it. That was a 10-year contract for SCG.
Why are they leaving?
They expressed an interest to end their license agreement with the Parks Department. So again, as part of our agreeing to that, they had to agree to continue to operate the site until we finish our process. So again, this way there would be continuity in service, and as Alex noted, the bathrooms would remain open until we find a new operator.
Are there any concerns that they? So go ahead.
I'm sorry. I think that was more of a business decision. For folks, who remember this, we initially awarded the license agreement to the Howard Hughes Corporation, and a subsidiary of Howard Hughes. And subsequent to the pandemic, Howard Hughes sold their assets to a larger company, who ultimately now is Seaport Entertainment Group. So I think based on their own portfolio of businesses and their goals for the future, this might be a little bit too small for what they want to maintain and pursue.
So thank you.
All right, anybody else? Okay, Andrew, it looks like your hand is the only one still up.
Actually, I didn't take it down. I'm all good. Okay, so if no other questions, thank you to the Parks team. Appreciate the overview. And we will be back to you with our timing on providing comments, which again, I'm confident we will have.
Okay,
Thanks.
great.
We look
Thank
forward to
very
hearing
much for
from
your
you.
time. Yep.
Great. Thanks, everyone. Okay, our second topic for this evening, we have an update on the Hudson River Park Trust estuarium, and I'll turn it over to Robert Atterbury.
I'm going to turn it over to Kate O'Malley.
Or, is it better if I stand over there? You can just speak to the owls.
Whatever works. I'm okay here. As Robert said, I'm Kate O'Malley with Hudson River Park. We're here to bring you some updates on the estuarium, which we've shown you a number of times. Next slide, please. This is actually our 6th public meeting. We were last here in September. We were at that point in time in the middle of the design development phase. We're now in construction documents, and we're going to go through some updates to the working on. Next slide, please. Just,
Sorry, it's a little bit hard to hear you.
okay. Sorry about that.
That's better.
Thank you. So the goals for today, I'm just going to give a brief overview. As I mentioned, this is our we've been here several times before. I'm not gonna belabor things, but just to remind folks what the project is and to acquaint any new members. Then I'm gonna turn it over to the design team. We're gonna go over some updates to the building exterior, some updates on the water intake and updates on the exhibits. Next slide, please. So for anyone who isn't aware what an estuarium is, this is our long-planned science and education facility that we located in between Piers 25 and 26, something that the park has been planning for a very long time. Next slide. And in terms of this location, there's the precedent of the original river project on Pier 26. And as we built out Pier 26, the sort of science and education has been a focus. We have sort of a confluence of science themed structures that we built in this area. We have the tie deck out at the end of Pier 26. We have the research dock. We have the iconic science playground that is going to be immediately adjacent to the estuarium. And this is also an area where we've done a lot of habitat. Next slide, please. And for those of you who may not be familiar with the work that the River Project does, they do a lot of really excellent educational programming focused on marine science. They do community science events, they do field trips, they run a wet lab, they do research internally. They also support research work from visiting scholars. And so this building is going to be purpose-built to support all of various programs that we run. Next slide, please. The site is located in between Piers 25 and 26, immediately adjacent to the science playground, as I noted before. It's the space that has been empty for a number of years behind the construction fence. So completing this project will complete the park in the Tribeca area. Next slide. The building, sorry, we're looking at the site plan here. You'll note that there's a series of ramps and stairs to enter the building with some terrace landscaping, and that's because the building is located in the flood zone. And so the finished floor is about 5 feet above the esplanade, and so this is for flood resiliency, and just overall, we're looking for this to be a very resilient building integrated into the landscape. We're working with Matthews Nielsen on the landscape. They completed the landscaping portion of the park generally, and so we're really looking for it to be cohesive. Next slide, please. Jumping inside, just to go through the uses, we have a large exhibit space with aquatic exhibits. So those are sort of feature tanks using Hudson River water, featuring Hudson River species. We have a large classroom that's sort of similar in scale to the one we have at Pier 57. We took a lot of lessons from we've learned operating that space and applied them to this design. Classroom is connected to the exhibit space by a series of movable glass panels. So those panels can be put in a closet, and this can be one big open space. We also have a working laboratory that's visible from the exhibit space that will allow visitors to see our team completing science in action. All the spaces in green on this plan are support spaces. There's quite a bit of mechanical equipment that's required to support these tanks. We also have a small staff space and some storage. In the sort of smaller drawings on the right-hand side, you'll note that there's a crawl space. There's a lot of piping down there, but also there's a tank where the river water first enters the building. Then there's a small second mezzanine level, which is entirely devoted to mechanical. So it's a relatively small building, but it gets a lot done. These are the renderings that we showed you when we were here last September. On the left, we have the view of the front porch. We have the terrace landscaping, a lot of nice planting, so some stadium seating, large windows that you can look in from the outside and see some of the exhibits. Note that the building is wood with a sort of textured green roof. We really want the building to feel natural and part of the park. Next slide. This on the left, you have the view looking down the esplanade, and then on the right, the view looking back from Pier 26. Next slide. And then last time we were here, we introduced this concept of an immersive interior. We really like the idea for the visitor to feel like they're underwater. And so we have been developing this concept, and the team will share some more about that with you in minutes. And from here, I'm going to turn it over to David Huss from Sage and Film Architects, and he's going to walk through some of the changes to the building.
Do we have to let Brian into the meeting? Yeah, right. Hi, I'm David Hess from Safety and Good Architects. If you go to the next slide, please. We have been spending this winter and spring putting together the construction documents, which are really the detailed drawings and specifications that guide the contractor how to construct the building, along with resolving technical details, working with the building department on their objections in terms of life safety, and of course, working long-term with the trust on maintenance issues and cost considerations as we move through the project. Next slide, please. So the refinements of the building are really very minor. The building form, shape, volume, wood cladding, all remains what you have seen before. We have done some minor refinements such as adjusting window heights and alignments. We've changed the mechanical screen from a metal screen to a wood slatted screen. The rendering slightly better depicts what the photovoltaic panels will look like that are sitting in the upper left-hand corner. But basically you're seeing what you've seen before. Next, please. The big change that has happened since we've been with you before is where the water intake is. So the estuarium runs by taking fresh river water from the Hudson River into the tanks and right back out into the water. So it's almost like an eddy off the Hudson. And we had planned to put it on Pier 25. We thought this would have very little impact. If you go to the next slide, please. As we got into the technical details of this, not only getting pipe 1,000 feet back from Pier 25 through all the existing utilities, started to become quite onerous. As we dealt with the operations every day of how the trust would maintain this, one of the things they have to do is they have to clean filters in the river, which takes high pressure wash. So we needed to build an enclosure around this so it didn't spray out into the playing fields. So we looked together as a team, if you go to the next slide, and determined a place that would work better on Pier 26. The criteria was it needed to be at the right water depth because that has to do with the hydrology of the system. We wanted to find a place where it was easy to get the pipes back and also a place really that it wouldn't impede the day-to-day operations of the park. So now we're only running piping about 200 feet back. We don't have to rip up the existing pathways to do it like we did at Pier 25. And it nestles in quite nicely with the research dock. If you go to the next slide, please. So what we have is a little platform that's about 240 square feet. It sits about 3 feet below walking level. And I'll show you an image of that in a minute. And on this platform, we have a box which has all the electrical equipment. And then most of it are pipes and valves that are controlling the water intake. And those two round circles you see on the left-hand image are actually screens that go in and out of the river that keep light and other things from flowing into the water. And those are what have to go up and down and be sprayed on a fairly constant basis with a high pressure wash. And this way they can just be sprayed back into the river and don't really influence people in the park nearby. If you go to the next slide, please. So here you see some renderings of what this would be. On the left, you're standing on Pier 26. You can see it's slightly below your eye level. What you're seeing is the davit hoists that come up above that carry a chain up and down with filters on it. And then on the right-hand side, you can see it sitting right next to the research dock, not projecting past it, so not really influencing any boaters, and also sort of tying in with the whole theme of Pier 26 and the environmental stewardship that the estuarium is representing. And that's really what's happened since we've been back. And I'm going to turn it over to Brian Schutze from Space House, who is the exhibition designer.
Hi, everybody. Very nice to meet you. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
Good. All right. So you can tell just by the water intake how complex this building is and how much effort it takes to design it effectively for the vision of the trust. And part of it was finding partners that could help with understanding what it takes to run a facility like this. So we went to the New York Aquarium and we met with Dennis there, who's head of facilities. And he showed, of course, some gigantic systems, but you could see some basic automation of those systems, how they mix salt water, how they treat their water. And then we spent some time on the guest side and got a good understanding of the complexities. And I think it was good for staff and facility team members to kind of see some of the best practices for taking care of what are pretty complex. So next slide. So this diagram, and I don't expect anybody to really look at it closely, but in order to pull this off, there is a highly designed and considered pathway for that water from the Hudson River to come in, be borrowed for a short period of time for these habitats, and then go back into the Hudson. But as you may all know, the Hudson does not always have water that's conducive. And so there may be times where we need to filter that water a little bit. And so what that adds is a little bit of complexity because you have to have redundant systems for being able to shut off one type of water, which would be called raw river water, with more of a filtered water. And this will be determined as the usage of the building evolves over time, but it gives maximum flexibility. And all this piping, for the most part, is happening underneath the building and then coming up to the exhibit tanks. And in some aspects of the tanks, we're really celebrating that this river water is coming into the building like an eddy, as David said, and going back. And so we're showcasing the pipes and we're being transparent about how we're getting water in and out of each of these environments. So next slide. So I think Kate already went over the footprint, so I'm going to pass this over pretty quickly. But the exhibits are facing west. There's large windows out into the piers themselves, so there's a connection directly to what you're seeing inside the estuarium. Next slide. These are earlier renderings where we were exploring this notion of immersion and how do we do it. There's very tall ceiling heights. It's a great opportunity to have some theatrics. You'll notice in the image on the right, when we started meeting the River Project staff and Noreen and others, they were defiantly saying, this is not a public aquarium. And that made us think a lot differently about almost every aspect of display. So I've been doing aquariums for 30 years, and there was always this notion that the water had to be gin clear, right? And that's good for humans to see into the tanks, but animals have adapted for turbid water and other darker waters and actually live healthier lives in that kind of water. So we're not shying away from it. And you can see there's a tinge to that water that is actually benefiting the animals. And they're able to, their survival skills are based on that. So, you know, you can see in some of these earlier images, we were kind of presenting what this could look like. Next slide. So here are more recent images of what the immersion could look like. So we're taking the piers, these remnants of industrial use of the waterways. These become these incredible ecosystems for current animals that live within the Hudson. And we thought it was a good way to kind of bring that story to life. You can see there's a pile habitat, as we've been calling it, in the foreground. The acrylic windows are large. The water height is 6 feet. The signage on the tanks is very, very ergonomic and readable and simple. There's animal identification systems. We're currently looking at donor recognition strategies and how to apply all of these to the graphics. Again, there's a shoreline tank that's in the midpoint of this view that looks at a cross section of the waterway, and in the distance is the touch tank. Next slide. Here you can see from the touch tank point of view looking north at those same habitats. You can see there's a classroom to the right where we've taken the super graphic image and we've done a transparency so you can sort of see into the classroom, but it doesn't break this immersive quality of the room. Next slide. So the touch tank is a major point. This water will actually be filtered, and that's because people are going to be touching it, and it's a safety protocol. There's also a hand washing station, which is part of it. There's plants on an upper tier that cascades water into the lower touch environment. And you can see these great windows outside into the Hudson that you've just come from. Next image. There's also, you can see in that window in the right side of an image, a research laboratory. And we've created an exhibit lab on the other side. So you can see into it. There's a lot of flexibility within this exhibit. There's a series of changeable tanks that animals which are collected can be displayed and then released. There's 2 demonstration tables that sometimes may have an animal in them, or a tabletop can be put on top of it for exploration, research, makerspace type activities. And there's a preliminary super graphic on the wall that illustrates how that water has been brought in from the Hudson into each of these habitats and returned back. Next image. This one shows the Atlantic silverside. We call it the cylinder tank, which is in the foreground. These animals will swim in circles because that's how they're kind of migrating in and out. And this really explores the story of animals migrating throughout the river. Next image. Right now, we're currently working with River Project staff to really further define all the interiors of the habitats, from artificial plants to artificial substrate. We're constantly trying to create an environment that is natural for the animals, but also has maintenance in mind. So like on the upper right, you can see some artificial plants. They all have little micro bubbles in them so they float, but we'll create a plugging system so they can be taken out and cleaned and be brought back in. We're also on the left side, you can see on that habitat, we call it the hero tank. We're presenting these habitats in a really fresh way. There's a light illumination behind the habitat, and it gives it this more science focus. And again, this defiantly not a public aquarium has been our goal from the very beginning. Next image, you can see we're working on, these are the educational content at a very high level. Most people don't know what an estuary is. They don't know that it extends all the way to Albany in the case of the Hudson. The diversity of wildlife, over almost 100 animals, invertebrates, fishes, and others live within the Hudson. We want to talk about that. There's various river habitats from the very bottom to the shore. Also, there's migration. There's endemics that live there all the time. Seahorses, jellies, all these whales, other animals are coming in and out of this ecosystem. And then there's a lot of active science that we're making very flexible and updatable for the staff in the estuarium. And those are all part of the building blocks of the educational content. And the next image shows how we're thinking about the graphic look and feel, how we're presenting the animal life, the animal identification, conservation stories, abundance of life, and then specific information about each of the habitats that you will see in the estuarium. Next slide. Yep, that's me. That's it.
I got this. So from here, we're looking to finish construction documents sometime in September. That's basically wrapping up the design. We're currently working on permitting, as David mentioned. We have a number of permits that we still need to obtain, including DEC and Army Corps, as well as your average sort of building department permits. So the soonest we would potentially be starting construction would be this spring. That is obviously contingent upon receiving the regulatory approvals and sort of filling our funding gap, which at the moment is still somewhere in $10 to $12 million range, but that's based on estimates. We won't know for sure until we bid the project out, but we are moving forward and really looking forward to making this project happen.
Great. Thank you for that update. Anej, can I again ask you to manage the room?
Any questions?
I mean, many. So, thank you. Could you go a little, are there more images you could show us on the construction document aspect of this that would be helpful? Just if you could go back to whatever you had, just to refresh my memory where this is going and where it was. If you could pull those up. I'm not sure who I'm directing this request to.
I think it's the slide with the.
I mean, there's a great deal in programming, but I think.
Shoot, that one.
Yeah, is there anything that's beyond that one slide that talks about the building itself? Or is that the only image we have?
We have the images that we showed last September. This was the one where we had the largest change.
So could you just, you say it's a very small change. I'm just trying to understand what we're looking at a little bit. Like there seems to be some sort of, well, one of you, maybe go a little further into, I mean, sort of blazed over that. Just, first of all, how, it looks like the building is the same height. How tall is the building again? And how many square feet is it?
So the overall square footage is about 8,000 square feet, plus or minus. And the height of the building at its tall point is about 30 feet. And that accounts for the fact that the first 5.5 feet is the crawl space. So we don't really start standing until we're about 5.5 feet in the air. And where you see on the right-hand side of the rendering, that is an outdoor mechanical room that is screened. So the floor-to-floor height in that area is only about 9 feet clear underneath it. And then we have all the mechanical equipment. And what you're seeing there is you're seeing a wood board and batten skin on the building. And there is an idea on this east elevation that there would be some notation representing the whole extent of the Hudson River as it goes from New York Harbor all the way up to its above Troy to where the river starts. And that would be cut away in the board pattern as something just to sort of engage the mission of the building. Otherwise, what you're seeing here are a series of windows in the back of house space, all the ones that are regularly spaced on the right-hand side. And I am talking to the right-hand image here. And the bigger window over on the left facing North 4th Street is a big window into the classroom component of the building. And
I'm just trying to think out this piece that seems to be, I don't remember it. It's like a board that's coming along. I can't tell whether it's a terracing or something on the left, the previous that's gone. And also I guess what I'm looking for is on behalf of the public is to, as much as the programming is fascinating and everyone will be thrilled to get in there, I think most people are going to be responsive to what these changes are and just to be pretty careful in this description, if this is our only shot to know what it is. So we're seeing, I love hearing about this Hudson River piece. I don't remember that. I'm sure it was there. I remember talking about signage earlier, which I think has come a long way, but just this, the bar and also, like I see a stair now in the current one, a sort of white stair that's coming out, if I'm seeing that, and just what the public space aspect of this will be.
sure, if you don't mind backing up into the slide deck, 4 or 5 images where Kate showed you what we previously showed you.
Yeah, there we go.
So if we go back one more, maybe, okay. Sorry. If you go forward again to the first image of the exterior of the building, right here. Okay, so we're seeing that same image from North 4th Street. And now you're rotated around towards the southwest. So if you were standing right in front of the Big Fish playground, you're looking up at the terraced landscape with some cascading stairs, which can also be used as outdoor classroom space. And that's opening up onto a large porch. That porch has a big sunshade slatted component over it that is providing shade not only into the building to mediate what's going on in the exhibit space, because we don't want light completely pouring in to these tanks, but it also creates an inviting public porch for people to sort of be up on and look out over what's going on in the river. And if you go to the next page, please. So now we're looking at that same porch from on the right-hand side from the sort of northwest. If we're on Pier 25, you see the whole extent of that porch with the terraced landscape coming down. The entrance is there, the main entrance, which the ramps that Kate mentioned show you. And then if we rotate around to the north, you're seeing the end of that porch canopy with stairs that bring you up into the entrance there, and on the right-hand side, the entrance.
So we're looking at previously shared renderings. So on the one rendering, it shows sort of before and after, but these show previously. So this is indicating that there's no change here in these renderings?
The changes are just the ones we mentioned, which were the screen on the mechanical space on the east elevation. We have made the windows more uniform, so there are subtle changes in the windows here. But really what you're seeing here is exactly what we're doing right now. And we were just highlighting the changes that happened on that one elevation.
It might be helpful as we go forward to have sort of accurate aspects of this, so that we're seeing the actual new construction document sort of phase a little bit more complete, I guess. I don't know. I mean, also just, it would be wonderful to see a section through the site, and I don't know, it just seemed like things are changed and it's wonderful. I'm sure it's great, but it's just, at least from my perspective, a little unclear. And some are previously shared and some are not, and that is hard to follow. Because if the back of the building is different, then you would assume somewhere along the line of promise too. This said, it looks wonderful. I just love to make sure that everybody's seeing what, is to come. So, and then what is the budget on the project now? I mean, what is the sort of estimate for the cost of this? Is there?
It's roughly $45 million. It's grown, it keeps growing. And Alice, to your point, I understand what you're saying. I think this is what we showed the last time.
Yeah.
It's been a while since we've shown it to you, so I think it's fair enough that people wouldn't have memorized it the last time around. You know, what we're advancing through. The only way to get to the finish line is to keep going. So we didn't recap entirely what we showed you the last time.
No, nor did you need to. I'm just saying that you changed it. Your at construction documents, you're actually finished almost. In September, you're going to be, I assume, pretty much done with CDs. I just would think that would be the part you would show. That's all I'm saying. I'm a little confused.
But the truth is, like the window details, we wouldn't normally ever be doing that at the community board level. We were trying to highlight meaningful appearance changes to the building as opposed to, as David was describing it, the things that are, yes, they matter for cost, they matter for constructability, they matter for DOD, they matter for code, they matter in a lot of ways, but substantively, the core aspects of what we showed a few times with respect to our desire for this to be a very public feeling building, landing in a very, in a complete public park area. That's why the porch area, that's why those elements with respect to the landscape integrating with the already complete park there mattered so much to us. Had we changed anything like that, we absolutely would highlight it.
Okay, well, I think I'm repeating myself, but in the next iteration, I'd love to see the drawings on behalf of this community be accurate to what is in fact going to get built in terms of the renderings. In other words, these renderings simply are a little different. They were different from the west side. We were looking at the 9 West facade. So if these elevations have changed, it's to see them, but if I'm gathering they did, but I don't know how they couldn't because the roof line has changed, so things like that.
The roof line has not, the roof involved, none of the volume has
Okay,
changed.
all right, well, we don't have to belabor this. I think, we hear you and it's great and thank you. I want to be difficult, I just was a little confused.
So
Okay.
$45 million, we do not have the entire budget there, is the key thing that you also need to hear. So we have been paying for the design ourselves. It's roughly $4 million that the trust has been paying for thus far. We've made that decision so that we can preserve any of the committed money that we had to get to the hope that we will actually finally build this building someday.
But you have 35 billion.
31 roughly. So since the last time we were here, we were telling you that we couldn't name the hoped for additional amount from where we were at that point, which was roughly 25 million. It's been announced since then, but we worked with Battery Park City Authority on a $6 million contribution as mitigation for their Northwest Resiliency Project. Together, we figured this is the neighborhood that's being affected by that project. Our sanctuary portion of it is being used for their expanded esplanade at their southernmost area near Stuyvesant High School. Battery Park City Authority and the trust both thought this was the perfect thing for them to contribute to. So $6 million is a very meaningful advancement with respect to our construction budget for this. So that is how we got from roughly 25 million when we were here this time last year.
Yeah.
To 31 million committed at this point.
What are the thoughts to get that extra 10?
Still going, Alice.
God bless you. Okay, thank you. All right. I'm done, believe me.
Elise? Very quick, I'm new to the community board, it's just the first time I've seen this, and I have to say it's so exciting. And as someone who spends a lot of time with these peers and children, like I'm thrilled, and as someone who works in local institutions and thinks about how people engage, you've thought it all through, and it's really very exciting. So I just want to congratulate all of you on this work, and I know that you'll be stressed.
Yeah.
This is exciting. I have two questions that are so minimal, and I'm probably redundant with them. But one, why the Army Corps?
I can go into that. So there's a few reasons here. The Army Corps is one of the key regulators for everything that we build in Hudson River. So anytime we build a small dock or a big pier, we have to get the Army Corps' permission as well as the Department of Environmental Conservation. And with the Army Corps comes a variety of other federal environmental agencies that they have to consult with. So we, National Marine Fisheries Service, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, the EPA, they have to consult or at least ensure, that's part of NIMS, National Marine Fisheries. So in this case, we're not building a big pier, but that little extension that David was describing and the water intake system needs regulatory approvals. So does the discharge or the intake and the discharge of water itself.
What about the research pier? Is that entirely there already?
That's there
Yeah,
already.
right.
Yeah.
It's a very elegant solution also.
We're really grateful for that solution. The other one was starting to feel very nerve wracking.
I mean, not being splashed with water.
Yes.
My last question was just, again, probably just a quick answer me, like how is the public have access to this? Is it by schedule or just walk in 9 to 5 hours? What's the access from?
I'll start and say that and admit that there's going to be a bit of evolution in figuring out what's going to happen. Right now, our river project team, which is here with you, among others, we do a wide variety of programming. So we do scheduled school visit trips, which is definitely going to be a piece of this. We reach out to schools all over the city, invite people to come for either, totally free or very low cost wage being at public school programming. We do regular public programming. We do like science at night lectures where you can actually have a date night and like learn about the oyster toadfish or whatever it is while having a lecture. That'll be a piece of this. I think probably when this first opens, it might be guessing, really, really crowded. So we might have to take some reservations or do some kind of planning, just like Rhode Island, you may remember, did when they first opened. And that evened out eventually. Eventually, you know, this will sort of even out. I think realistically, it's not necessarily a 7-day-a-week operation because we're gonna have to staff it. And we have a small staff and we pay for the staff ourselves. We may have partners that, like the Department of Environmental Conservation, which sometimes will do additional programming with us at Pier 57. We would welcome that. That's core to who we are too. So maybe we let some of our other government partners do some of that and extend the hours. We're gonna have to figure some of this out, but we'll have some core public drop-in hours that we expect will probably be free. We will have some structured school and other hours, and we may, you know, occasionally have something where there's sort of a nominal admission charge. Sometimes we do that so that people actually show up. Like if you don't, like, if it's totally free, they don't come, but if you actually have said, it's, what do we charge for like?
$10 to get a free complimentary beverage. So when it's free, there's typically a 50 to 80% drop off is what we find with registration. When you have a ticketed event, it's less than 10%. So it brings people to the event and really solidifies that $10 ticket.
Thank you very much.
Eric.
I have a maintenance question. So what's the height of the ceilings, the tallest part?
So in the exhibit space, there is ceiling height of about 18 feet. This is something that we've had discussions on. So all the light fixtures are easily accessible through a folding ladder system. That otherwise, to replace an LED fixture that shouldn't go out for 25 years.
But they do.
But they do.
Experience, yes.
But this is, the trust is very, very concerned about maintenance and
Oh, great.
operations and go through every detail of this over and over again.
With those,
Driving crazy.
oh, good. I mean, words are productive. But then let me see, with those tanks that you have, if you have to bring in large, heavy, I don't know what it is, but how would they fit large? I mean, you know, I'm just using a forklift or something to bring in heavy equipment, that tanks that have to be coming in and out. How would they do it?
So the tanks are right now, they're made out of concrete, most of them that you saw in those images. The smaller tanks, many of them are off the shelf, you know, that are 25, 50 gallons through the service entrance, which is over on the northeast corner. There are double doors that open and a big 5-foot stair that takes you all the way up into that space with 5-foot doors. We've worked with mechanical, with our life safety support company, TJP, which has been amazing about how every single tank is serviced, operated. Can it come in? Can it come out?
Okay.
Big mechanical equipment that goes in the outside well, the photovoltaic panels can be moved off to the side, a crane can be brought in.
Okay.
They care about this stuff.
Okay.
And I'll just add that one of the things that we really, one of the reasons why we picked this team and one of the things that we've seen is that collectively this team has vast experience, not just with really fancy aquarium, but like sort of grittier ones, you know, that they've seen the whole spectrum of challenges that people have had trying to care for things. And they've gotten to know Siddhartha and how he runs into a tank now in the wet lab and how he cleans it and other things like that, because we have to be able to take care of this thing ourselves, you know. And so if you have a question that we haven't thought of,
And then I know this will all be conditioned space. There's no provision, at least from what I see, for fresh air to circulate, you know, to be exhausted, to draw in air. I'm thinking about the humidity and the energy cost of keeping that proper.
So in that mechanical space that Kate showed upstairs, we have an indoor and an outdoor component. In that outdoor component, we have a air handling system that is a heat exchange air handling system. We have a specialized dehumidification system. All of the ductwork has been designed for whatever humidity zone it sits in. So ductwork above the tanks is of a certain quality versus in the classroom, it's of a different quality. You know, and I'd be remiss to say, is there something in like 14 different engineering firms working on this project, you know, that bring a lot of skill, and these are things that I'm going to keep saying. Because they put me through hell.
Okay, but it's all gonna be conditioned space. There won't be any time where open the louvers, have air come in, those.
So we do have one window in the porch area that is actually made to be operable, that they can use as a counter exhibition space. And that's part of their programming, but otherwise the building is made to operate as a fully conditioned enclosed building. Okay, thank you.
Anyone else in the room? Okay, we do have 3 hands online, but before I go to them, I do have a question. In regards to the tanks, in the previous renderings as well as these tanks are open. What is the plan to prevent foreign bodies, liquid and solid, from getting in?
Brian, would you
With
like to?
people traversing. Yeah.
Can I ask you a question after?
Sure.
I think the question was, are people going to throw things or reach into the tanks? Is that essentially what you're concerned? Yeah. So we've spent a lot of time going all over the world looking at different aquariums. And although I can't say this is just like people tend to behave in general in public aquariums. And we've spent a lot of time working with the trust, figuring out heights and access points, and that fine line between eye level and is the water just slightly above it or below it. And I think we have a pretty good balance where we want in areas people to touch the water, in others they're a little bit too high. 6 foot high acrylic windows are a little higher to reach in. So I don't think that, and also we know that the exhibits will be staffed, and it's not a very, very big space. So I think there's a number of controls that will take place. So I'm not that worried about that happening.
We also, I'll just add, we have a current use with like the wet lab as an example, where frankly, we have touch tanks. Even with that, people do not put their hands in the water without staff guidance. There's many spaces where children and even adults are able to access water, and the reality is that almost no one actually touches the water. We're not confident, we're about, this is the touch tank, you may touch that.
Nor have we ever had an issue with someone pouring their Coca-Cola into the tank, right? It's never once happened. So that's, again, something that Peter mentioned, is always that space. We're always having a lot of people in there with a lot of this trying to do things like that.
I would also just add, one of the things that we don't really talk about often enough is how this whole experience is so sensory. It's very tactile, it's very visual. The river water itself is going to have a certain smell that's going to be pretty amazing. And I think so that whole experience is going to be, there's going to be a reverence, I think, that will take place when people come in.
Tammy?
Thank you. Thank you so much. I wanted to ask Noreen, you're at 31 out of 45 million, and we're going through budget requests and things like that. There was a discussion in one of the previous meetings about how or whether or not any of the city agencies can grant money for the estuarium. And I wanted to know, like, are we considerably asking for state and local money to help support the estuarium, and what the funding mechanisms for the last chunk could possibly be made up of?
Thank you for that question, most sincerely. Yes, the answer is, if I know you probably have many priorities that you're looking for, but certainly if there is an interest in adding an ask with respect to supplementing the amount that the city already has committed for this, that would be very welcome, whether through your, through council members directly or through the bigger budget ask, because of all the things that we do with respect to school children education, from all over the city, not just Manhattan, not just Tribeca. I mean, I think this is a good candidate for a citywide project that actually has a real benefit with respect to the environment.
Can you help us with an agency contact? In other words, when we identify, can you be pretty specific so that we can add that to our budget request?
Yeah, we can put a little.
I mean, it's in here already, but it's pretty amorphous.
That would be great. Yeah, no, we'll put some thought into the best ask for that. Just for reference, the city is 9.1 million at present. So, and the state has basically done about the same.
Oh,
Noreen, do you know what is that coming out of city budget for Parks Department? Or is it coming out of DYCD? Like, you know,
Yeah.
what agency is it coming out of? So we know what we don't want to do is put it in someplace and be told, we've already taken care of this. Thanks, we're all done.
Right. So generally speaking, for Hudson River Park, most of our funding, we have a funding agreement with the City Parks Department, which is sort of like the conduit for how city money flows to us. It's not directly City Parks money, as I understand it. My assumption is that would be the same with respect to the 9.1 million now. DYCD or something like that, I think would be different because that would come probably with some kind of obligation, I would guess, for what the programmatic component of this would be. So I hope I answered the question.
if I can just say, Tammy, I've got the sheet in front of me. So last year, you know, it's to, the agency asked was to EDC, and we asked for the contribute funding to complete build out of the Pier 26 estuarium. And the agency response was the agency does not understand the request as written and requires more clarification. And then the agency explanation was more information is requested by the agency about this request. Please follow up with EDC for further discussion. Help us out
We
here.
can certainly help
Okay.
with different clarity for that.
you.
Yes,
Okay.
Thank you for raising it.
Yep.
Exactly my point. So thanks so much.
All right, Rosa?
Thank you. Hi. Noreen, it's so awesome to see you. I'm so sorry I'm not there in person. And I hope you're doing well. Tammy actually sort of took my question, which is how do we make sure that you get the remaining funding that you need? And where can we find it from? So I think that was asked and answered. So I'm just going to use my time to say hi. Hi.
Hi, thank you.
All right, Andrew? Take it from here.
Yeah, mute, Andrew.
You have to unmute.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. First, kudos to Noreen and team for your continued stewardship of just this invaluable asset that we have on the west side. And I would echo that this is such an exciting project. A couple of questions, and apologies, Noreen, it was tough for me to hear. When you were talking about the budget gap, does this project commence before you have reached your target funding, or I couldn't quite understand what your comment?
I didn't answer that specific question, so fair question. I have raised with our board of directors the possibility that we would actually start aspects of the project while we continue to look for the gap. That is in part a constructability question that our construction manager and the design team and our design and construction staff would have to help inform, because we clearly don't want a ruin, you know, sitting there without being done. But with the 31 million that we have, I think that certainly there would be, you know, functional aspects of this that could advance while we look for the balance. And in fact, that might be a desirable way to try to rally people to raise the rest. But that fundamentally, at the end of the day, is something that I'm going to have to continue discussing with the board. I think once we have a better cost estimate, you know, than what we have now.
Got it. Thank you. And then can I ask for clarification? Someone made the comment that this is not a public aquarium. Can we clarify exactly what that means?
I think I said it, and what I was referring to is the plasticity or the spectacle that you see in a lot of the larger public aquariums. The estuarium team was defiantly not that. It was more of a DIY, hands-on educational facility, and I didn't mean to confuse you.
No, got it. That's helpful. Thank you. And then a few more granular questions. As it relates to the platform that you walked us through for the water intake system, has there been any discussion both about security and possibly screening so that it's not as visible if you're walking along the promenade?
So I think on this one, we do have a number of other waterfront pieces, both historic ships and docks and other facilities. And although there is certainly occasional vandalism, it is secure, or in the most part in our experience, secure enough to not particularly be messed with. It does mean you have to lock things up, you have to lock your things, you have to chain them, you have to put a padlock on it. It shouldn't be something that's sort of movable and free, so that if you jumped over, you could really do any real damage. But we haven't had much of an issue in sort of many of the other facilities like that. When it comes to screening, one of the things we actually really liked about this is that this solution, although it is a few steps down and largely avoids sort of blocking the view or that piece, it does help us tell some of that story about where we get the water from and where it goes. And we actually really liked that it was bringing what was sort of this like distant plant concept at the end of 25 that was very disconnected from the building, much closer. So when we go and we're talking to school groups about the building, you can see it, you can experience it. People really like that experience of behind the scenes, knowing how infrastructure in the city works. And we thought that it was actually a really great interpretive element where we'd be able to like work to explain sort of what is this, why is this here, and where is it going, both inside the building and then also out on the pier itself. So we didn't want to totally make it disappear or make it inaccessible in such a way that like you couldn't bring a school group over and show them from while they remain on the pier deck on the Esplanade and look over the railing to see sort of what it is and how this how it works.
No, that's a great point. Thank you. I hadn't considered that. Staying with the water intake system, are there contingency plans if that system just completely fails?
Yeah, you want to
start talk about this?
Brian?
So I'll talk a little bit, but I'm going to turn it over to the staff. The building does have the ability to take a mobile generator. So if there is a power outage, and operate all the systems. So on that level of keeping pumps and tanks going, there is some resiliency. But I think the second plan is a plan that you guys have really described, which is most of these fish come from the river.
Yeah, that's well said. So a lot of the tanks are modular, according to the current design, where they can be basically turned off and on the intake or set to recirculate the system, which is what we would have to do anyway. Seasonally, as the water gets colder, as ice starts to form, you can't pump freezing water through glass, through pipes, they will burst. So this will already happen naturally throughout the season in the aquarium. And so we could, one, do that if the intake, something happens with the intake, you can stop the intake, you could turn the tanks on, so the tanks are recirculating. And because these animals are being kept in the river water, you can just release them right into the river off the research dock. If something go wrong, that is currently what we do at the Pier 40 Wet Lab Aquarium, because it is the most bare bones DIY version of this space that currently operates. If you're not familiar with the wet lab, it's at our main offices at Pier 40 on the south side on Houston Street. It is a very small 12 tanks, 3,500 gallons combined, 1 horsepower aquaculture pump, little box in the back, pulling up water through an 1.5 inch PVC pipe. Unfiltered, untreated, pumping through all the tanks, going right back out into the river. And we are posting a couple hundred fish at a time throughout the year. We're catching them 3-4 days a week. releasing them and treating them out constantly so that we don't have any one individual for too long to mitigate the visual impacts already. That is still something we would be doing here. This space just gives the opportunity to hold maybe more sensitive animals, be released for longer or during the winter months when we currently cannot operate. So there's a lot of the different systems that are able to be swapped.
Yeah, I just like to clarify, because I think the question was about like, you know, if there was an algae bloom or the water was sort of inhospitable for use within the building, and so that's a redundancy that we've built in. So each tank has the option to receive, as was mentioned, raw river water or filtered water, but we've also built in a system that we intend probably to use over the winter to keep the building running year round, where it can become a closed loop. So there's large tanks both below the building and up on the mechanical level that's storing river water. So that the system can be, you know, there's a series of valves that need to be changed, but it could just run continuously on a loop internally. And we can, you know, replenish water as necessary to keep that running for up to about 6 months. So if there were a situation where we needed to do that out of season, that puts in.
Got it. Thank you. 2 other very quick questions. Can you remind me, is there any solar power infrastructure in the design?
We're actually installing a 10 kW system on top of the mechanical portion. So yes, it's going to be net metered, so it will go back into the grid of the park. But it's designed and part of the base project as of now.
Great. And then last question. Will there be a way for the research that's being conducted in that room for someone to communicate to people looking in as to what's actually happening?
Yeah, that was actually on one of the boards. It was perhaps a little vague because we didn't go into specifics. But we do actually have a space. The River Project and our team we have about 12 sort of ongoing studies that we are conducting ourselves, research that we are doing directly, our fish survey, our eDNA tracking, our pathogen study that is kind of shared without the region where we participate. We also host about 24 visiting scholars every year. So that is a wide range of research institutions, CUNY, SUNY, Monmouth, Columbia, a whole lot of universities, NYU, others who come and have scientists who come and do research in the park. And so we work with them as sort of a research agreement, all that information and the end result of that. We actually get a report. It's all the data and the information for it is published online. Part of our goal is to build a collaborative set of information for the region and really help build the collective understanding of it. Up in River Park, we are 400 water acres of estuarine sanctuary. The water does not stay here. It doesn't start here. It doesn't stay here. It moves. We are part of a much larger ecosystem of the estuary. So it's really part of our mission to get that data, help share it. We are a site. For a lot of these studies, we are one of many sites where folks are looking up and down sort of the lower Hudson here. So that's a key piece of it. We have a display board to really share that data. If you go up to our the Pier 57 Discovery Tank, we actually have a rotating sort of exhibit there that changes monthly with various themes that we talk about it. But we wanted to make sure that we had a place where we could do some of that interpretation of exactly what that research was, what are some of the outputs from it, to help people understand what is sometimes a little information. Like just the pathogen study alone is not going to get you the information. Explaining why the pathogen study matters is actually will help people understand why supporting the Hudson River and helping to work with within as a collective whole to improve the Hudson River is really important, which I think is a message that we're hoping to bring forward with this, is to provide that sort of larger investment, connect people closer to the river. It's our mission overall, to really help them do that investment in sort of our collective environment.
Great, thank you. That's it for me.
I just have a question. Yeah, I'm just not about the project, but I'm just curious, how did the park do during the recent, on Saturday?
Very well. We fortunately were spared, but some of our neighbors were not spared. We had a few leaks in our known troublesome spots, like we have a little spot in the Pier 40 sort of service yard. Had a little bit of flooding, an area about Pier 84 with some drains. We try to stay up to date on our drain cleaning is one of our key things. We have a few places where we've had Kate's been working on this seepage, mysterious seepage in a couple of the buildings, and we've been trying to suss out exactly what and why, but nothing that was actually flooding.
That's true.
Yeah, yeah.
Look, the July 3rd storm
Yeah.
was actually much harsher. There was like whatever blew through coming from the west side,
Wind
the
damage.
incredibly wind damage. We lost directly 4 very large trees, including some that were
Root balls.
like from the original construction of the park of 25-plus-year-old trees. Some of them damaged their neighbors on their way down enough that we also had to take them up because they would die within the year. So we are still recovering from that. Some of the security video of the portalets we had out really taken flight for July 4th. We had some that really flipped fully over. None that went in the river, thank God. But
Chasing a jogger down.
yeah. Yeah, it was
Gee, thank goodness.
all fresh, but yeah, they really took off. They did not have a leak in them.
Thank you. That's interesting.
Oh, Nige, do we have any other questions?
Yes, with Mother Nature being very, very unpredictable, and with us having minor, major earthquakes, is that kind of affecting this project at all? In
So,
what way? I'm sure it is.
well, so the building.
And I'm not asking for anything here.
No, but believe it or not, New York City is in a seismic zone, and we have to design our buildings to deal with that seismic zone. And so this particular building is actually built on piles that go down to bedrock because the soil around us is not great soil. But yes, that is all addressed that, if there is, forbid, an event, the building's designed for it.
Nige, anyone else?
No, you can take it from here.
Okay, great. Again, thank you to the team for very informative and exciting update. And we look forward to further updates as relevant.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thanks a lot. Something we can start on our side.
We'll note for those of you who were interested in our colleague.
Yeah.
About that.
Yeah.
There was a TikTok challenge that you can look up for toilet theft. This was a couple of years ago. Parents at schools were being warned about this. You can actually look up the TikTok challenge for toilet theft.
Sorry, I did someone say there's a TikTok challenge
These are
about
metallic
toilet
ones, right?
theft?
You heard it.
They want the metal.
No, they're not.
Oh, okay.
What is going on in New York City?
It's a very serious.
That is crazy.
Thank you all. Take
Bye.
care. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so if we can move to our third topic. I believe we have a presentation from Todd Fine relating to Elizabeth Burger Park and Washington Street. So Todd, why don't we turn it over?
Yes. Okay, let me share the screen. Application. Let's see. Yes, okay. You see the presentation? Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, so my name is Todd Fine. I am a PhD in history and a scholar of Arab American literature, especially one of the Pen League writers, Amin Rahani. Years ago, I was involved in initiating this Al-Qalam Monument project, but I'm not currently on the board, and I've never criticized them or had a problem until this incident that I'm about to describe. Some people may not be aware. It actually got a lot of publicity in the Middle East, but it didn't get that much publicity in New York City. That the government of Lebanon through their cultural ministry and then their foreign ministry, issued complaints about the historical sign for the Alcala monument. And it was removed about 2 weeks after its installation. And then some changes were made without any sort of process, without the community board or any sort of scholarly input. So I'm going to raise some criticisms of these changes, which I think, to me, are something that divide people rather than unite people, despite the intentions involved. I'd also like to note that there are some family members of one of the founders of the Penn League, Abdul Masih Haddad, his grandmother, or excuse me, his granddaughter and great-granddaughter, who would also like to speak on an issue that's related to this, which has been reinforced by the sign changes. Now, obviously, this monument needs a historical sign. You know, as you are clearly familiar with, it is these shapes, and it doesn't have any images of the writers, or it's not immediately clear what it's referring to unless you're in the know. So there needs to be a sign, but and I don't believe that the initial sign was perfect or even up to the standards I would have preferred, because it did have this term Greater Syria, which was not fully explained in terms of what that meant. I think it would have been, it was a little bit provocative without that explanation. And the word Syrian over and over again on the sign might have been seen to some as provocative. And I wish that there had been more context in the original sign. That said, I think that the correction doesn't add any context at all. In fact, removes the little context that was there and makes the situation a lot worse. Now, here's the timeline of what happened. The original sign was unveiled with the artwork on April 30th. In early May, there was pushback in Lebanon throughout the diaspora. Just 2 weeks later, the Cultural Ministry of Lebanon asked for diplomatic action to reverse the sign. The Foreign Ministry then wrote a message saying that they would contact the State Department and the New York City government. They intervened, and then a few days later, the sign was removed. This is not the way we normally do public history or community board one issues, as you know. It's very unusual to have something like this, and I wish there had been more dialogue about what was happening. A replacement occurred in a few weeks without any sort of review at all. The sign came down. The Parks Department worked solely with the sponsoring entity, the Washington Street Historical Society, and then there was a replacement put up in early July without any input. And by the way, still no disclosure of the citations or the scholarly input that went into it in terms of what the changes were made. But you know, we can understand why they made the changes they did. I believe this revision went far beyond what Lebanon asked for. Lebanon requested that the Lebanese identity of these writers be acknowledged and that they be referred to in some cases as Lebanese Americans. But there was not any firm direction that the concept of Syrian identity be removed en masse from the sign. The revisions delete the word Syrian in 5 cases, change the word 1,200 Syrians to 1,200 immigrants in a formulation that I believe is just blatantly inaccurate, turned a Syrian school that was actually founded by a group called the Syrian Society, just ripped out the word Syrian. And then in what's most objectionable to scholars is sorted writers into categories of being either from Lebanon or Syria. Now, the key thing to note here, and as I can assure you, this is basically the scholarly consensus, is that it is not appropriate to say, when we're referring to the late 19th century, from Lebanon or from Syria as distinct categories. Because at that time, at least in the American formulation, they were all called Syrian. There was no term Lebanese. And the identities of what we now consider Lebanon, the boundaries are very different, because it was only in 1920 when the French Mandate created new territories. So to say certain writers were from Lebanon and other writers were from Syria is completely ahistorical and actually might offend those writers themselves were they to be asked what their identity would be. They might not want to be called Arab, they might want to be called Lebanese, Syrian, we don't know exactly, but it's very inappropriate and it seems offensive to a lot of people to have that presumption made. And it would be insulting in some cases to Syrians to think that is a problem to identify those writers as Syrian. So the revision, in my view, even though it's these deletions, it very much changes the entire direction of the sign going from one extreme to the other. The original the original language rooted this in the scholarship concept that these are considered Syrians, that they were Syrians at the time. Though all those mentions of the word Syrian were removed, and then the writers were then divided into categories as either being from territories that are now Lebanon or Syria, but with no explanation of why was the neighborhood called Little Syria, or why was there a Syrian identity, or what did that mean at the time? There's no further context to explain that. There's just a clear attempt to assign these immigrants and associate them with the country of Lebanon. So here are the changes that were made. We could go through them, but the key thing is that this formulation, immigrants from Greater Syria, which is a concept that was then defined, is changed to immigrants mostly from Lebanon and others from Syria and historic Palestine, which, as you can see, is a non-grammatical formulation that tries to assert that these are mostly Lebanese, and the Syrian, I think, is a minor part, and then has these non-parallels of a historic Palestine being a concept that was a geographic concept used to define Little Syria, now being associated with modern day countries that create these non-parallel, non-grammatical constructions. And then on the other side, you see the word Syrian, the school that was established by the Syrian Society that Linda Jacobs, the former president of the Historical Society, who's now resigned, had done research on. That Syrian Association is ripped off. And you also see, on the first one, you also see 1,200 immigrants. We'll get into that, but to say the neighborhood has 1,200 immigrants is really unclear, because that is an estimate from 1900 of the number of Syrians, not the extent of the neighborhood, which was much larger than that and much more diverse. You also see the additional changes were the writers who were then initially established as a group are now divided into being from Lebanon or from Syria in a way that they might not have agreed with, and from countries that didn't exist at the time that they lived. And also the formulation, which it says Nasib Arida and Nadra Haddad, who were instrumental in the formation of a writers association called the Rabita Kalamia, is now very problematical, because not only is that grammatical structure very odd, but the founder of the Penn League, Abdul Masih Haddad, whose family members are here today, is not even mentioned on this sign, the co-founder, and is not even installed on the monument itself, which was shocking to scholars when we saw its unveiling. So I get into, this slide depicts some of that problem with that formulation. Immigrants from Greater Syria, it's non-grammatical. It groups things that are not like it, and there is no concept of why the neighborhood was called Little Syria, especially as you saw the phrase Syrian quarter was also removed. So there's clearly an attempt to excise Syria and not have any more educational content. Again, it misuses this 1,200 figure, saying that the neighborhood known as Little Syria was home to 1,200 immigrants, which is just not accurate. That is a census formulation from 1900 that is specific to the Syrians and not to the number of immigrants at all. Again, deleting the word Syrian erases this institutional identity to just rip out Syrian quarter, which was another term used, and the Syrian school. It's gratuitous in our view. Additionally, that label of just assuming a fixed Lebanon and Syria is really not ahistorical, because at that time, these were very different boundaries within the Ottoman Empire. And there were many of these writers would travel between Nazareth or Homs, Syria, or Beirut. They would universally describe themselves as Syrian, and these borders didn't necessarily exist. They did oftentimes identify with a territory called Lebanon in certain instances, but there was always an overlap with a Syrian identity as well. So it's very ahistorical to make a distinction between Syria and Lebanon as two distinct areas in that period. Additionally, as I said, that new phrasing with that very awkward grouping that assigns Nudra Haddad and Nasiba Rida as responsible for the Penn League, or if it refers to the entire group as responsible to the Penn League, reinforces this problem that is inexplicable, that the founder of the Penn League and a very active publisher named Abdul Masih Haddad is not on the monument at all, and it's inexplicable. And this new sign, just in the view of scholars and people who know Abdul Masih Haddad, just sort of digs in the knife on that point. So the sign fails on several levels from an academic perspective. It now has blatant demographic errors. It has this historical context problem. And again, here at Community Board 1, there was no public process and there is no academic review of this at all. So my position is that there should be an independent working group or a group of scholars who don't have a particular say in this, who are not nationalists, not associated with any government, who would review this sign and create a durable sign that won't offend either side of this dispute, that would give the proper historical context, that would explain the different terms used, explain why these identity categories or these national boundaries occurred as they did, would publish the sources behind these different numbers so everybody could be confident. And we would have something that the millions and millions of people who see this monument to Arab American culture in Little Syria, which is already controversial enough, would not have any more basis for conflict. We shouldn't, move from offending one group to offending another group and offending scholars who are engaged with this topic. So my proposal, my request for your humble consideration is that we treat the installed sign, the replaced sign that was put up a few weeks later, as an interim replacement, not as the final historical interpretation. We encourage the Parks Department to have a group of scholars that would publish its sources, review this, and create a new draft text, and provide public review, returning to Community Board 1 with the proposed final wording. Now, we do know that the Parks Department doesn't have a lot of resources, and I think part of the reason they did the way they did is because they're overwhelmed. But in my view, this is something that is very important. And the fact that a government took, in the middle of a war in their country, took the time to intervene on this, and you have passionate reaction on the other side, shows that it's worthy of a serious thought and shouldn't be done in a lackadaisical, quick way just to appease some very aggressive constituencies. So I printed out I told staff to print out a version of the text if anyone wants to review it. There are also members of the Abdul Masih Haddad family that I know would like to speak now, to maybe before you can give your comments, to give their perspective on this, because they are more knowledgeable about the exclusion of him specifically, which might also be a possible subject of a resolution were you to listen and hear that out. Thank you.
Great. Are we recognizing the family members to speak?
I guess,
Is that
but
the ask?
I mean, I'm sorry, but Andrew, is this something where we're considering a resolution to allow the parks to revisit this with the appropriate scholarly review? Or I'm just not sure where we're going here. I don't think we can get into the politics of this, or I'm not sure where we're going with this as a committee. Do you have a sense of that? I mean,
Well, so fair question.
Delighted to hear. Yeah.
I guess I interpreted this slide 14, as the potential body of a requested resolution. Yeah. But I was waiting to see if we were finished with the conversation before putting this to the committee.
Sounds good.
We
So
do have.
Go ahead.
3 minutes.
Go ahead. So can we understand, again, it just seems to me that changing of the sign and, an interim sign and you know, how this was handled through parks. I mean, I think there's a procedural issue that, you know, when this originally came through, it was unusual way back when. And, you know, it didn't seem like just a, you know, I mean, there were several things that were unusual, but this now is highly unusual. And are you going to ask for the word interim to be put on the sign? So what you're saying is there's a new sign out there right now, right? They took the old sign away and there's a new sign there. And the idea is that there will be a new group to review the sign and replace it at some point in the next couple months. But you want the current sign to have the term interim on it. And then the question is, who at the Parks Department, you know, allowed all of these changes without normal review? Or maybe this is just the way it happens when there's political heat. It's just a confusing situation all the way around. I mean, I'm sure I'm not the only person who's confused by how this could happen.
Sorry, is that a question, a statement?
Yeah, I apologize. I think the question is that the resolution that we're writing is also to set precedent in the future to, you know, we're dealing with this issue, but, you know, there may be other issues in the future when, you know, there's signage or, you know, a historic place, how it's handled in terms of, you know, I don't think that, if we do write a resolution, it needs to be bigger than just this one site. It should also be procedurally, you know, how are we dealing with this as a, you know, I mean, so we understand what happens and, you know, that there's some sort of, you know, process. I think that's what's happening right here is I'm trying to figure out what is the process and then how did this even come about?
So to Andrew, to Wendy's point, I think we might want to consider that we bring the Parks Department into
Yes.
that very question
Yeah.
of naming in parks, and then we revert back to this. And I think that might be a better approach because I don't think any of us really are well enough informed on the process that you're referring to, or certainly the intricacies of this situation. So maybe that's a start. And also to hear Parks on this, I don't know, just a thought.
Yeah, no, and it's a good thought. Look, I wanted to give everyone a chance to speak and share their comments. My own personal view aligns with what you just said, Alice. I don't have enough information. I don't understand all the aspects of how this played out. So to the extent this did channel through parks, I do think we need to hear from parks to get more information and educate ourselves.
It doesn't mean
So
that
I'm not proposing a resolution this evening until we bring other parties to the table to understand perspectives.
And I say that it is, I understand that it is academic, you know, excellence that you're also talking about here, but, you know, we're a community board that deals with more procedure and process and, you know, how things go about and what is the, you know, I mean, if there's like a ULURP or whatever we're dealing, there's always like a set of rules, and this is obviously way outside of that.
So Andrea, I don't know if you can see, you've got one hand up. So you, like, we usually allow like 3 minutes, right, Max?
Yeah, we have some
Yeah, I
questions
do want to be respectful of the people who have joined us tonight, but I do want to also respect time. So
Yeah.
I think you said there were a few family members. I'd like to ask that we limit the commentary to 3 minutes.
We have Joe. Joe has his hand up. We should let him go first.
Yeah, let's get through our committee first, and then we'll invite the family.
Joe, you can unmute.
Joe Lerner?
Joe.
It looks like he's lowered his hand.
Oh, okay.
Can you hear me now?
Therese? Oh, yes.
Yes.
We can hear you,
Okay.
Joe.
if the signage is factually wrong, we must make a change. And if it's factually wrong, I think we should make some statement that it's a temporary artwork or a memorial. That's the first step. Do we agree that it's factually wrong?
I don't feel educated enough to give a definitive
Okay.
response to that, Joe.
So then you want to go right to getting scholars to answer the question?
Well, I think we have one scholar here tonight who has shared his view.
Yes.
There are other parties involved in what has played out. I don't know if they've engaged scholars at all, but I'd like to hear from them as to what transpired.
Sure.
Well, it is
So I'm
that
not
really
disagreeing.
what-
If at the end of the day, we determine that what's
I
up
don't
is
know if we're
factually
the-
incorrect, we can
Yeah.
discuss a process of addressing it.
Yeah, I don't really feel like we're the right, we're not the right body. To me, that's the city or the park, you know, this is not our job to, I mean, I'm not saying at all that that's not accurate what you're saying. I just don't know if the community board filled with volunteers who, none of us are experts, what we do is represent, asking if, you know, proper procedures, like why is this such special treatment by parks? You know, that's the piece of it, and then we need to say, listen, this needs to be revisited by parks, and quite frankly, it's a good place to bring it to us because this is clearly not right, but then we have to ask our elected officials, we have to elect, you know, the people that are in charge of this, you know, what is going on here? Before we continue, let's have Therese from Parks, make a comment. Therese?
Yeah, and I just learning about all this, and I'm sending back my notes to our Arts and Antiquities division, who make up these signs through a sign committee, and I'll be asking them to respond. Is it possible to get a copy of the presentation and then maybe have this set as a topic at a future meeting and invite them to speak?
Yes.
I think that's appropriate. And Therese, I don't know if you can see from the presentation, but there appears to be a link which does a full text comparison between the original and the current. So that might be very helpful to share with the group.
Okay. So
I'll share it.
Thank you. So we'll get that over to you. Onesh, can you work to forward that?
Yes, we have, Manal.
Yes, hello. Thank you. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes, you have 2 minutes.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you for your time, and thank you, Todd, for the presentation. I support all of the points that Todd made. I'm going to read very quickly an edited version of a letter that I sent to the Washington Street Historical Society on May 8th. The letter included 44 co-signers, so I'm speaking on behalf of myself and all of them. First, I would like to congratulate the Washington Street Historical Society and the city on the completion of the Qalam Poets in the Park Monument. It is a major achievement, and it will introduce New Yorkers to the important history and literary contributions of early Arab American immigrants. I would like to address the omission of Abdel Masih Haddad from the monument, which Todd mentioned. Haddad was one of the 2 original founding members of the Penn League. The other original founder was Nasib Arida. Arida is recognized in the monument artwork, as is Nadra Haddad, who is Abdel Masih's brother and a later member of the Penn League. But for some reason, kind of very confusing reason, Abdel Masih Haddad is not recognized, neither on the sculpture itself nor in the accompanying signage text. I'm aware that the monument honors the works of Mahjar, that means in Arabic, immigrant writers of the early 20th century, including literary figures who were not members of the Penn League. But the monument states to be in part honoring the groundbreaking work of the Penn League. So why exclude one of the 2 original founding members? This becomes a factual and historical error. There's ample space on the monument to include all members of the Penn League, but at a minimum, space must be made for an original founder. Without his inclusion, the monument is not fully representative of the Penn League and remains historically inaccurate. The omission of Abdel Masih Haddad also hinders public discovery and scholarship surrounding his important literary contributions. He was the founder of the literary magazine and newspaper As-Sayh, which operated in New York between 1912 and 1957. Haddad also authored Hikayat al-Mahjar, the first book of fictional short stories documenting the daily lives and concerns of
And now
Syrians
you
in
need to wrap it
America.
up, please.
He wrote, his singular stories have yet to be translated from Arabic to English, and his omission and erasure further obstruct access, scholarship recognition, and do a profound disservice to efforts aimed at making Mahjar literature available to the English-speaking public. So we urge, myself and the co-signers urge this correction to be made in the monument.
So thank you for that. Have you received a response to your letter? I'm sorry?
You're on mute. She's muted.
Yes, I did receive a response.
Can you share that with the community board, both your letter and the response? Please?
Absolutely. Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, do we have any other
I would
questions?
like to say,
Oh,
I would like to say that
My-
there's one more family member that I don't see here. The name is Danya Abu Shaheen. I'm not sure why she is not showing up.
We have members in the attendee section. I will get to them.
Okay, thank you.
If I can ask, is it going to be a similar message to what you just communicated?
Yes.
Okay. Again, I want to be respectful, but please let's be brief. If it's a reiteration of what you shared with us, I think you very clearly articulated the issues to us.
Okay.
Manoj, are you able to identify?
Yes. Danya. You may unmute. Danya? Okay. While we wait on Danya, we have Bob. Maybe? Bob, go ahead. Hello?
Hi,
Oh,
I'm
there we go.
sorry, hi. Thank you for having me. Thank you for hosting this meeting. And Todd, thanks for bringing this up. I'll be very quick. My grandfather was one of the members, a prominent member of the Penn League. He was an Arab American. He referred to himself as a Pan-Arabist, and he came from a time when, as Todd recited, there were no national identities like Lebanese, Syrian. They were not separate from each other. He's rolling in his grave right now with this sign, as is my dad. I just want to read one thing that might give some context to how Todd presented the ideas and how they saw themselves. And again, he considered himself an Arab American. Syria, the idea of Syria or Greater Syria was known as Bilad el-Sham. And I'll recite something that maybe brings breath to the ideas that Todd presented. It's not a nationalist identity tied to one modern state. It's a civilizational identity that connects the people of Lebanon, Syria, Palestine, and Jordan through a shared dialect, foods, musical traditions, and a shared relationship to the land that existed before the borders imposed between them. using it as an act of cultural continuity and refusal to let colonial division be the final word on who we are to each other. They were anti-colonialists, they were pan-Arabists, and they were finally Arab Americans. To pigeonhole them is incorrect on many levels and shows a disregard for their own thinking and their own ideas. That's it. I thank you. I appreciate your consideration.
Bob, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Is
Dinesh?
there anyone else? Oh, yes, Dania, you may unmute and go ahead. Dania, I see your hand again. You need to unmute.
Danya, if you're unable to unmute, perhaps you can just send us an email with the comments you would otherwise have made.
Last one, there's one person in the room with us. Go ahead, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Esther Riegelson. I'm one of the founders of the Friends of the Lower West Side and have lived in the Little Syria area for 43 years. I just want to support, if possible, a resolution from the community board because those changes were made hastily by a foreign government that I think essentially bullied the Parks Department into changing the sign without any foresight. So we want to support any kind of resolution that you might be able to write to change the sign so it's historically accurate and hopefully pleases a lot of people. And I did want to suggest to the Haddad family, the sculptural element would be very expensive to change and time consuming. And I was instrumental in recording the poetry for the app. And I would suggest that perhaps we could add it to the app, the audio, so that it could be introduced into the whole outcome experience and also put on the signage, if that's possible to do. Thank you.
Hi guys, this is Danya. I finally figured out how to unmute. I'm so sorry. It took me forever. Do I have like 30 seconds?
Yes, please, go ahead.
Okay, great. I'm going to keep it very quick. I want to thank Todd for expressing his views on the importance of scholarship to inform signage in a city as fine as New York. This is about academic excellence. I am the descendant of Abdul Masih al-Haddad. But this isn't just about me advocating for my great grandpop, who did, as my sister articulated, do quite a bit for the literary movement, both in the diaspora here and also in New York City. But the issue is, what is the process for the scholarship that goes into determining what the signs are in a city where people expect to have edification and factual information shared through the New York City parks? I have great respect for New York City parks. So I want to just advocate for the importance of the scholarly process. If there is a resolution or some motion that can be made to figure out how we get to work with the city to make sure that it's factually correct. I know everybody's leery about political involvement and this and that, but I think if we keep focused on the simple issue of there are scholars who study the history of these peoples and their movement from the Levant to the United States, and they should be informing any signage. Otherwise, the signage is not educational, it's erroneous, and we can do way better than that in New York. Thank you very much for your time. Sorry, it took me so long to unmute.
No, thank you, Danya. Thank you for your comments.
Thank you. So we have Suzanne.
Muted? Yes, thank you. And I appreciate the comments of those who came before me. Thank you for providing an opportunity to tell you about the foundational role. That's the key word here, foundational role of Abdul Masih Haddad. He's my grandfather, and he played a pivotal role in providing a home, a literal home, and forum for the voices of immigrants from Syria, Lebanon, and Palestine. His magazine, Asaya, started in 1912, and particularly the special publications, was the mouthpiece of this nascent community. The voices of these literary figures that we celebrate today would not have easily been heard without this instrument. of Asaya. As the co-founder of the Pen League with Nasib Arida, his cousin, these voices had a safe haven to promulgate the beauty of the Arabic language, literature, and national consciousness. Their works are now available to scholars today largely through their publication in these key literary associations and publications. Their work, nurtured through Asaya and the Pen League, is taught today, as my nieces know, in schools throughout Lebanon, as critical in the evolution of Arabic literature. The role of each founder and contributor of this movement needs to be as reflective of their contributions in their adopted home as it is in their regional birthplace. So yes, I certainly support and agree that we do need a scholarly committee to correctly reflect the history that reflects a very large diaspora community today. Thank you very much for the opportunity to provide this information.
Thank you very much for sharing that. Inej, are we good?
We have Wendy.
Can I just ask a clarifying question? Are we looking to take the sign down until it can be corrected? Is that what you're asking, or just to fix the sign going forward?
Todd, would you like to answer that?
I think I would personally prefer it to be taken down just because I think it actually does offend some people, but you know, I don't know how Parks would respond to that.
Is Parks still there? Next to still.
Yeah.
So
is that an official
sorry.
request that we would like the sign taken down?
I mean, it was taken down because there were some Lebanese, you know, nationalist groups who were organizing were upset. I mean, I don't think currently the people who are against this sign are not as, you know, aggressive. There's no plans for a protest like they were planning to do, but, you know, it should be, right now it's not very good. I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. I mean, right now it does identify, it does have some other value because it lists the quotations, and so that would be up to Parks' discretion. But I don't want it to sit there for years and years. I think that it does. I personally think it does damage in the current form.
So if I can just summarize what I think we've agreed in terms of next steps. So Inej, we're going to send Therese a copy of this presentation, and she'll internally coordinate with the Parks team. We potentially have agreed to bring Parks in perhaps at our next meeting, which is in September, if they're ready to respond and discuss this with us, right? We're also going to have and apologies, I don't have all the names written down, but the first family member who spoke regarding the letter that was sent, you'll send that to us along with the response you received from Washington Street Group. I might propose that Todd and team perhaps engage directly with Washington Street and Parks in the interim. Again, our next meeting's not until September, and I don't know how long Parks will require to come before us to talk to us about this process. So that's what I have taken away as next steps. Is there anything I've omitted or anything someone would propose to add from the committee?
Yeah, I think, Andrew, we should ask, like, you know, who paid for the second sign? Was that the city picked up that cost and it's going to have to pay for another sign? You know, I just think we need procedural to understand as a committee what happened here. So
that's what I'm hoping to get from Parks when we bring them into the meeting.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that Parks knows that, you know, that's the problem as well. You know, there's the historic and the academic piece of it, but I don't really feel like that's our job to, you know, create the sign that's accurate. Our job is to say, why was this done in such a different way?
Okay, I think we've
Great.
done it.
Okay, so thanks to Todd and everyone who spoke this evening. We've mapped out the next steps and we'll move those forward.
Thanks.
Thank you kindly.
Okay, thanks everyone.
No.
Therese, we typically give you an opportunity to provide any updates if you have any that you want to share.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you.
Yeah, that we had these heavy rainstorms It's really nice to see that Washington Market is holding up and its drains are working. And we don't have the lakes that we used to have there, just to let you guys know that. And working, to improve a lot of our green spaces. So you'll see a lot of new lawn areas really rejuvenated, and us working hard to make things look a lot nicer with irrigation and watering and repairs to our irrigation systems at City Hall. So yeah, it's a lot of stuff. We're working with interns and summer youth to do a lot of the horticulture work around a lot of my region. So you might see the results of it in quite a few of our parks. And then also at Canal Park on 6th Avenue, this morning's district service cabinet, it was brought up about the trash issues there, and we have had a request to make that park better. It's a green street, really. I think in Google it's called Yo-Yo's Park. So Google, it has it listed like just on 6th and on the right side of 6th Avenue, south of Canal.
That's really good news. That was one of
Yeah.
my personal requests. Thank you, Trez. I just wanted to know, are you also, given the look at that particular Green Street, and I hope you're also looking carefully at Barnett Newman, another really important Green Street, in tandem with DOT, is there some way that you and DOT can come together and let us know how those two departments or agencies work together in making those green streets and DEP resilient and kind of effective in sort of holding back what we saw on Saturday? It's really a lost opportunity not to make these spaces even more green, expand them. And in light of that, we've also advocated for a lot more of Parks involvement with the full redesign of Canal Street. We were surprised we had a leadership meeting last week and Parks wasn't there. It would be great to have Parks' voice heard and more robustly the redesign of an artery like Canal Street, particularly when you had a boat through Soho. So I'm sure none of this is news, but it's just, a real, really important need in the community.
I'll take it back to our planning division and talk to a few people and see what we can do.
Thanks.
Oh, thanks, Therese. Anything else?
Yes. Therese, at the Pearl Street Park, the water fountain, the children's play fountain, it's been on 24/7. I mean, I haven't checked the last 2 to 3 days, but is that an issue where you can control, or is it something that you can't turn off the water? Your folks can't turn off the water because the water there is also.
It sounds like a communication issue. It sounds like they just left it on, so let me go get it turned off.
Okay, thank you.
We have Rosa.
Thank you. Hi, Therese. First I wanted to give you congratulations because over the summer, as I've been walking by Finn Square and Barnett Newman Triangle, which is interesting because I don't think they are either of them the shapes that they are named, but they're looking awesome. And I've seen your teams and the Hort.
I can't take credit for that. We do have
you can.
Quite a few community members that take care of those sites that do a lot of work, and our hort crew does support them, but also the Horticulture Society and Pat, everybody else who's over there. Our community is amazing. So
that's wonderful. They look really lush and beautiful, and they're planted, and they look really lovingly cared for. So I just want to say thanks for that, or congratulations. I did have a question regarding Imagination Playground. Do we have any news on what, if anything, might be happening there? Because it seems like it's sort of in sad condition.
It's internally being reviewed to be improved, and then we'll be seeing what can be presented after that through, I think, Seaport Entertainment Group, and so we're looking into getting that park renovated soon through Seaport Entertainment Group, and it's hopefully going to happen soon where we have something to present through them. After looking at the design and internally commenting on it.
Amazing. Okay, thank you, because it's in such sad state of repair.
If there's any particular repairs that you can just send me a photo of, please do. If they need immediate attention, that's something I can deal with.
Okay, will do. Thank you.
We have two more questions. Eric, and then Wendy.
Yes, Therese, Peck Slip Park, is that under your jurisdiction, or is that maintained by another group?
Yes.
Okay, so this is unusual. So on Peck Slip, I see people, you have the borders. It's usually some kind of granite block where it separates the street from the park. I see people sit on this granite, like it's like a border, and they put their feet towards the road. And I worry for them, because if a car just for some reason swerves, they're gonna crush their legs. And I'd like to know if there's anything that can be done. I mean, look, common sense is, not always prevalent, but people should be reminded that there are vehicles, and though there might be, about 3 feet from them and the vehicle, that if God forbid the car swerves, their legs will be crushed. And I worry if something were to happen. Is there something that can be done? I mean, maybe a little border on top of it to discourage them from sitting outward, where they should only sit inward towards the interior of the park, not to sit outside.
Putting a back to the bench so people sit facing toward the park, or removing the bench type surfaces, or maybe making it somewhere people can't sit? Is that what you're asking?
Yes, because they're not even sitting on the benches that's there for them. They sit on the perimeter. That's a better way. They sit on the perimeter that line the street. Yeah.
Would you send me a picture of exactly where you mean? Are you talking about South Street side? Or are you talking about the east and west side of it?
On the east and west side of Peck Slip Park. Yeah.
Okay.
I just,
if it's a wall, if it's like a curb to the street, is that what you're talking about?
Yes, they're sitting on the curb. It's an elevated curb, probably like about 2 feet, and it's like a granite blocks that line the perimeter, and it goes parallel to the street.
I just want to
they do close the streets there, and they do enjoy sitting on them when the streets are closed. So, it's kind of a design.
If I can just say, in the interest of time, right? So we've raised this with Therese. Eric, maybe you can follow up. And if we have other specific location questions, maybe we can send those to Therese as a follow-up to this.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll do that. I just want to make one point to thank Rosa for the compliment about Barnett Newman, but it couldn't be further from the truth about the fact that it's a done deal. We have tried for 10 years to expand this, and it's thanks to the small group of friends that we've made those plantings. We haven't yet had parks involved really fully, so we're hopeful for that. I just want to make that clear. Thank you, Rosa, but we could use a lot more help, so thanks.
Oh,
Great.
no, I just
Therese,
meant that the plantings that are there are gorgeous right now.
Little
Great. Therese, as always, thanks so much. I really appreciate your participation.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Would it be
Thanks,
helpful
all.
for us to write a resolution about stealing toilets? I mean, I have to say that I'm just shocked. I mean, that's in the future, but would that help her at all? I guess she just dropped off, but, it's like, maybe we could help her.
Maybe next.
Can we, for tonight, can we park that and pick that up at another meeting? We still have 2 topics.
Of course.
So we have district needs, but I was wondering if we don't address the first issue tonight of providing comments as to what we'd like to see incorporated into an RFP.
We're not looking at like final comments. Those are going to be due in September.
The final comments are due in October, so we've got a bit of time, and we've handed out.
Is this for the district needs?
Yes, the district needs and budget requests, right?
So
what
everybody has, I don't think you have this, and I'm sorry. This is gonna go, well, we'll hopefully go through this.
I think you're referring to the RFP though.
Right, it's like.
I'm
Yeah, I
sorry,
was saying,
I'm-
before we get to the district needs, I was thinking if we should just try and quickly tackle the first issue of comments we'd like incorporated into the Parks RFP.
Oh,
Does that make
wow.
sense to the committee?
Yes.
Um,
I have is a larger question. I really don't have any comments. But I don't understand how somebody's doing renovations to the space, right? They need to make it so it's better for them to operate it. They need to maintain the tables and the places for people to sit and they kind of police so that there are people that sit there. They have to clean the bathrooms, they have to get rid of the garbage, they have to serve food. And we're asking for something that's affordable. And at no point does, and the RFP, what they said was, they have to turn around the proposal within 40 days of the plan. I can't even imagine how anyone's going to apply to this, or be able to apply to this, or be able to do something that is even affordable. And I remember that BPCA had just done this with Wagner Park. And they said their first round of RFP, no one even applied to. They had to redo the whole thing because no one applied. And I just feel like what they're asking, I don't understand that as a vendor. Am I wrong? Is that normal?
I mean, this is.
Fortunately. And for concessionaires, I mean, think of Bogardus, you think of smaller pedestrian plazas like Bogardus has the new concession stand, you know, the kiosk. I mean, these are ways that, you know, they're getting paid, but you talk to anyone who runs these parks and it's the public-private partnership is so skewed. So you're absolutely right. I mean, talk of Rose and Chang at Gotham, same situation. But I think at that particular location, if I'm not mistaken, it's really probably very busy.
It's
very small too, as you pointed out with the square footage, and I'm concerned that there's too many conditions and obligations that no viable business will succeed there. That's why I don't think I don't think the city should be too proscriptive.
It would probably, at most, probably something that's a chain already, which is what we don't want.
So Andrew,
Something
to
that
your
already
point,
has
I
money.
think we are identifying some of the issues as we speak here. So I guess maybe Onej, you're writing them down, but the idea that this is a slightly onerous RFP potentially to be reviewed carefully as to what really is being asked of the applicant as a concern. I don't know. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, so I think what I'm hearing is we want to ensure that Parks puts out an RFP that is feasible for a concessionaire to respond to.
Yep.
And also feasible for somebody besides SEG, because if it's too. Are they walking out?
Yeah.
They said they're
Yes.
walking out?
Yeah. So this is the new,
She can't even do it.
I think
It's too small for them.
yeah, they have other fish to fry.
But-
Right.
Because we don't want them to keep on issuing RFPs and we want whoever they select to benefit the community, but also to succeed financially. Yeah.
So the requirements should be feasible for the concessionaire and, well, to respond to, for concessionaires to respond, be able to respond to, and also be affordable. So the community.
I was just saying that in order to cover all of those daily operational costs, maybe in the summer you're meeting numbers, but during the older months, you're not necessarily meeting those numbers. And so we talked earlier about affordability and I'm just saying it's very hard to have something that's very affordable that isn't a fast turnaround, which is why your smoothies form quickly. And wow, smoothies, ice cream, soda, coffee, that's a quick turnaround at low cost. I just think I think they're asking for, I'm surprised. I didn't know, but I think they're asking.
Joe, do you have a comment? Francis,
Sorry, Joe Lerner.
Joe,
Do we have other agenda items that we have not
Potential-
discussed yet?
Potentially,
Districts-
depending on how Alice wants to tackle the
I'm gonna be
district needs to
extremely
see.
brief.
Well, the
Yeah.
RFP is done already, so we might want to correct it later, but let's get on with the meeting.
Well, I think our window to provide
Deadline is-
comments to what we'd like in the RFP before it's actually issued is imminent. We need to get something to them, I think, and
Okay, so why
Sorry.
don't we just quickly go around the room and get the comments down, and we've got one
I agree.
comment. I would add the assurance that the bathrooms work, with a certain, I'm not sure what the hours should be, but they should certainly be every 7 days a week, let's say 8 hours a day. I think that's one of the big asks for this community. Is
so
that fair?
prioritize access and upkeep of the bathroom facilities.
Thank you, much better stated. Okay, go. Wendy, what do you
I'm
have?
fine.
Nothing? Francis?
Just that it's not a franchise.
Oh, not a franchise.
So at this point, I mean, with all of the other things that are required, a startup is not gonna be able to last long.
Sorry, I'm not sure I'm following. You're saying it should or should not be a franchise?
No, it should not be a franchise, but I can't see it.
Well, so for example, is Van Leeuwen a franchise?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Would we not want a Van Leeuwen type in that
There's one
space?
around the corner.
There's
That's
one a
exactly-
few blocks away.
I'm just using it as an example. There might be some franchisees or franchises that might be acceptable. Not a
We limit
McDonald's, maybe.
ourselves, you know? I don't know, I mean, that's for the committee, but I would think that's.
I mean, Luke's Lobster's a franchise, but Luke's Lobster might be very appropriate for something along the water.
Yeah.
I don't know how to put this in as a comment, but I don't want it to be too proscriptive and too restrictive, because I see the benefit for the community to have functioning, maintained public restrooms. And Alice, I was thinking like dawn to dusk, like a park.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah, dawn to dusk. But I don't want it to be too prescriptive and eliminate other potential concessionaires that could benefit the community, but also be financially viable. So
Okay.
really,
So let's keep going around the room and on the phone. Who else is in the
I
room?
think we went around the room. David, you have your hand up?
David Schultz. Unmute. You're muted.
You're muted.
Squeaking.
David, unmute.
We can't hear you, David.
You can't get unmuted. You can't.
Oh,
do it.
okay.
If you have a comment, just send it in to Anej. Thank you.
The only other thing I'd say is that whatever we're writing, that we indicate in the whereas clauses, if you will, all the things that were promised to us today in this meeting by the parks, just, there were many things that they stated about how this was gonna operate.
Yeah.
The 9 years, whatever, all the different questions that were
Yeah.
answered, might be
Yeah,
just have
good
reviewed
point.
that.
Any other proposed conditions or items from anyone on the
Oh,
phone?
goodness, unmuted. Go ahead. David, you can go ahead. You're unmuted.
Who?
David
David?
Sheldon, he's not got his
Can you
hand
hear
up
me?
anymore.
Yes.
Something about it not being too overtly intrusive on the district.
So meaning how
What
much
does that mean?
space they take up?
Not so much space as just noise.
Oh.
The local habit of hanging speakers on your outdoor walls and blaring to claim public space. Music is fine, just make it a little discreet. Not overtly obtrusive.
From a noise perspective.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay, good point. Rose, I think your hand was up.
Thank you. So just to Francis's point about it not being a franchise, I am concerned that the cost of running just even the bathrooms and keeping that supplied and clean and like, I guess, replacing toilets apparently, because that's a thing, that is actually really expensive. And so whatever this small business is going to be able to generate in terms of profit from a 200 square foot or 250 square foot, footprint, like it's sort of, I don't know, if we're saying you can't have franchisees, then I wonder where are they going to get the financial sort of stability from to keep this going. And we do want it to be running. We do want the bathrooms open. That's a public benefit for sure. I would actually be willing to take the financial stability of a franchisee potentially over over something that could start and fail
I think that
instantly.
consensus was shared.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Any other comments? I just have one quick one. Notwithstanding the comment about the operational viability, I do think we should make a point about affordability. We don't want someone in there that's a $35 hamburger. So, and I know it needs to be nuanced and balanced, but how often do we hear that the merchants and retailers that are coming in are catering to the evolving demographics of our neighborhoods?
Yeah, good point. The other thing is one of the things the Parks Department said is that whatever seating would be provided in the exterior of that location, which is a big open space, would all be public. I want to make sure that it's identified in our.
Yeah, to your point, what was represented to us as considerations that will go into this process, we'll itemize those.
Great.
Okay, so I think we have the form of a resolution. Based on what we discussed, do we have support from the committee to move forward on that?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
great.
Francis had a good point.
Coming from the licensing committee, what about that aspect of it? In terms of them wanting to sell beverages, alcoholic beverages, we didn't entertain that at all.
Would they have to come before the licensing committee for that? In the normal course of business?
In terms of us talking about what's feasible and people being able to make money, that's a quick way to make money, put a couple of TVs up and serve beer and wine and.
We haven't seen the RFP, so.
No, I'm just saying, put it
But
out there.
are we saying you want to add a point that to the extent they're seeking to serve liquor, they follow the course of coming before the community board's licensing committee?
They have to. They have to.
Yeah, I would have thought they had to. That's why I wasn't sure if we needed to put anything in there.
I think so, but.
The normal course of business would require them to come before us.
Objection, Andrew, it could just be a point of no objection to having a franchise or whatever location have alcoholic beverages. So.
Without discussion.
I didn't hear that. Annette, I didn't hear what you
I
said.
think we're good. I think I've moved to vote on this, and I don't know if someone's seconded me. Thank you.
So all those in favor? Anyone opposed? Anyone abstain? Anyone recuse? Great, we'll work up the resolution. Thanks, everyone. So Alice, turn it over to you. Can you walk us through your vision and how you want us to tackle district needs?
Yeah, I think we are certainly not tackling it tonight, other than to ask you all to just look at your one pager here, which we put together just to guide particularly new members into what this process is and what you should be thinking about. And you can be thinking about it in August. You'll be asked, this will be provided to you as a Google Doc, so you can actually fill it out online, but we're in paper, which will be collected. But, the biggest problem is to, one, limit ourselves, so let's say the maximum of 10 per committee, so we don't have endless numbers of asks. And to obviously really focus on the biggest needs facing the residents, workers, and visitors in our district. That's important. It's not just in your backyard and one little fountain. It's the big picture. Really focus on that. Pair specific projects with broader initiatives that benefit the whole district. prioritize areas, infrastructure, and services in poor condition or lacking investment. So for parks that are basically beautiful and pretty perfect, maybe that's not where we prioritize. Maybe we go with the ones that are degraded and not so great. Stuff like that. Looking ahead to emerging needs our district should prepare for, and all ideas must be for city-funded projects, capital versus expense. Those are the 6 items to think about. For July and August was to review last year's request, which Onej very kindly has put on this piece of paper. I think given the hour, we're not going to do that tonight. You can already start to think about that in these next 2 months of what you want to remove, what you want to add, answering the questions on the back of the sheet as to what projects, what's the problem that, or the unmet need, who's affected, why is this a priority to you as a committee member, what action the city should take, and what is the funding going to go towards. So those are the ideas. And in September, we'll come back and review this very carefully. Hopefully we'll have time, although the agendas will be packed. So I would do some of this, with your sheet now, so that September will come in and do it relatively quickly, hopefully, and painlessly. That's about all I have to say on this, Andrew. I hope it's helpful, this idea of this sheet and these questions, so that people sort of are guided through the process a little bit more.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that sheet.
Yeah.
I saw it at the Youth and Ed, and I found it particularly helpful guidance.
Oh, good.
And I know Alice spoke to being more strategic and focused, and threw out 10. I'll share 10 to me still sounds like a lot, so I'm going to challenge us to be very focused and strategic on this committee.
Andrew, this is good news. Thank you.
Well, the only thing that's crazy about that is, like, if you look at it, the only thing that they support and can accommodate are like these, if you look at the very last pages, and everything else is, from, they don't even understand the request to, they can't support.
The answer
So
to that,
figure that out, because it seems like, the little things that get on the lower part of the list, maybe that's a win.
well, they are written, so you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
But in answer to that point, we are looking, and Onej will be taking care of it, much like Martina's doing for land use. We'll be contacting the agency and calling them out on saying, what exactly do you mean by this? And what do we need to do to ramp it up? Much like we were talking with Hudson River Park Trust, how do we word this so that it's actually going to be read? And I think, right, you're going to talk to the various people at parks to sort of get it closer to what we need to ask for.
Yeah, I just don't want to take away your wins, because they're like little on the 20th list, or however many on here, like last year. But the only thing that they did were like, numbered, last page at the bottom. So.
And again, sorry, go ahead. Didn't mean to interrupt.
We're looking at what we lose, and
maybe once we have our initial thoughts on paper, I don't know, I'm just thinking out loud. Maybe we invite Therese to take an initial look at it. Maybe she can help us with the wording and how we can.
That's a great idea, Andrew. I think that's a really good idea. Also, maybe at that meeting, we could have DEP or the 3 agencies that are sort of working together on most of these aspects of the issues. Yeah. Yeah, that's a great suggestion. Yeah. Well.
Okay, well, with that, guys, thanks for your patience. That was one of our longest WPC meetings. So thanks, everyone. Meeting adjourned. Have a great evening.
Thank you.